housing agency buy rental properties from private landlords. Councillor Noel Jordan says the processing of the scheme by the local authority is too slow, all the while termination notice dates are fast approaching for many. The council says they are committed to roll it out as quickly as possible. However, Councillor Jordan says people are at their wits' end.
I've spoken to a number of constituents where the landlord has pushed that date out maybe by a month, saying, but we need to have news by then or else you're out. And, I think it's very unfair. And then people now, I would have been hoping to get a better response than that. I'm just hugely annoyed that this process has been dragged out and it wasn't thought through.
The Ukrainian ambassador is in Donegal today. Larisa Garasco will officially open an art exhibition at Greenan Theatre this afternoon. The exhibition will feature a range of works by more than 20 artists from Ukraine who are now living in Ireland, reflecting the creative process of painters who are adjusting and acclimatising to life here against the backdrop of war and displacement. Gardaí in Donegal, meanwhile, are urging motorists to save lives this bank holiday weekend by slowing down. It's after 2 drivers were caught speeding by the Buncrana Roads policing unit this week. The motorists were detected travelling in excess of the 100 km/h speed limit near Burt. Gardaí also say they will be on the lookout for people driving while holding their mobile phone this weekend. The Garda Roads Policing Division has issued a safety appeal for the bank holiday. In partnership with the Road Safety Authority, they're asking for special care towards vulnerable road users. Assistant Commissioner for Roads Policing, Paula Hillman, says mobile phone use while driving is illegal.
We can issue fixed charge notices for mobile phone use. This year alone, in the first 4 months of this year, we've issued over 4,600 tickets. So yes, having your phone in your hand, using your mobile phone when driving can be given a fixed charge notice. And that's one of the lifesaver offences. That's one of the offences that we will be targeting this weekend.
More roadworks are set to commence in Letterkenny next week. Essential road maintenance will be carried out on the M13 dual carriageway between the Dry Arch and Manor Cunningham roundabout from June the 7th to 9th. Donegal County Council is advising motorists that lane closures will be in operation and to allow extra time for journeys. For weather now, a largely sunny day today, though some cloud will build at times with highest temperatures of 19 to 22 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like save 33% in our Irish steak sale with ribeye and tomahawk steak. Super Value Signature Taste Breakfast Deal only $5.50. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
And a very good morning to you. It's approaching 4 minutes past 9 on this Friday, the 2nd of June 2023, and you're very welcome along to another edition of the 9 till noon show. And it's your Friday dose today, and we have our Friday panel coming up for you right now. Well, very shortly. I'll introduce them to you in a moment. We are also taking your legal questions with Seamus after 10, and Micheal and Fionnuala are in with us after 11. That and so much more besides. Get involved in the chat. 086 60 25,000. Your WhatsApps and texts to that number, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. Just a reminder for you that you can watch our programme across your social media and on our website, Highland Radio Ireland, on YouTube and Facebook, Highland Hub, Highland Radio News and Sport. We're on Twitter too, and you can click live on the highlandradio.com website. OK, let's introduce our panel. We'll say good morning first, if that's OK, to author and journalist Kathy Donaghy. Good morning, Kathy.
Hi, Greg. Lovely to see you on screen.
Yes, and it's great to have you on this part of the programme as a guest. Great to have you with us. Declan Meehan is a community campaigner. Good morning to you, Declan.
Good morning, Greg.
How are you keeping?
Great,
Feels
thank you.
A long time since I've spoken to you, but I know it's good to have you back.
Thank you very much.
So hopefully you've plenty of opinion and debate in reserve. You've been able to build it up, and it's just pent up and ready to release. Okay. And also in studio with us, we have Joe Sweeney, who is the Donegal chair of the IFA. Good morning to you, Joe. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. Yeah.
How's life in the chair at the Irish Farmers Association been like so far?
It's busy. Just busy.
Challenging.
Yeah,
all right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we'll get to some farming matters as the morning wears on. Before we get into the topics that we were going to discuss, I just picked up the newspapers and couldn't help but notice the amount of coverage of the ongoing Phillip Schofield situation. Just wondering, I don't know, have you been following it, Kathy? Is it anything that's engaging you? Or, I mean, we're not going to get into the ins and outs of it because a lot of it's just all speculation and opinion. But, I mean, the papers are loving it, so the public must be loving that story too.
Yeah, I have been very interested in it. I used to watch This Morning. I still dip in and out of it, and I actually think that's what's happening now is a witch hunt for Phillip Schofield. I think he has said as much as he can say. I think the tide has turned, and the guy is broken. He's absolutely broken, and he's lost so much. Yes, he had an affair. Yes, it was unwise. But what do people want now? And I think the scrambling around over this now, the guy needs to be left alone. I feel really strongly about that. The other parallel that I see really strongly in this is, do you remember the Jennifer Aniston, Steve Carell, the morning show?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the sort of the fallout when, the big presenter sort of fell from grace? I'm not comparing the two, but there is a sort of, the drama sort of around all of this is sort of similar. I just feel that the guy is broken, and he said he's sorry. He's done an unwise thing.
With that in mind, though, I mean, he did do 2 interviews yesterday. He did one interview with the Sun newspaper, one with the BBC. I mean, if he wanted this to go away, or maybe he believes that in some way draws a line under it. I mean, do you understand him going ahead with those interviews?
Yeah, I mean, he's a very media savvy operator, but I think this puts so much of people's wrongdoing into the shade. I mean, we're really focused on the fodder and the feeding frenzy around this and I'm not saying, I mean, I've read it as well, it's there, but there are so many issues. There are so many people, when you think about wrongdoing, when you think about Boris Johnson's carrying on at the height of the COVID crisis, and Phillip Schofield, is what we're still talking about and what's making headlines. Sometimes I feel really angry about that in the news cycle, and I've been involved in news for 30 years, and this is something that actually annoys me sometimes, that we need to get a grip to,
Declan, have you been following it at all or have an overview?
I haven't been following it that closely, to be honest. I haven't really ever watched This Morning. Obviously, I'm familiar with the characters on it. Look, it's one of those situations where, as Kathy says, what more do people want from Phillip Schofield in this? I think there has been a little bit of attention put on ITV and executives as to what they knew and whether there was a proper investigation and all of that. But I mean, other than that, I'm unaware. It does strike me, though, as well, that, there was an absolute witch hunt for Phillip Schofield and Holly Willoughby during the Queen's funeral around the Skippy McHugh.
Yeah, something turned in terms of the media decided, right, we're going to get our claws in here for some reason or other.
For some reason, and whether it was that they knew what was going on behind the scenes, or if it's just that typical thing of, 2 very much loved presenters, very successful broadcasters.
I think if there was a super injunction, I think that's because if you sort of think of when Ant and Dec, I think it was Ant had his issues, and it was quite a sympathetic coverage of it, and it was sort of let slide to some extent. I just think if there is, and it's not been fully confirmed yet, though it's been denied, but still some suggest that there was an injunction to keep the lid on this, because Holly Willoughby she didn't know this. I knew this. I thought this was general knowledge because someone asked me around about the time of that Queen thing, and I knew the entire story. I don't know how I knew it, to be honest with you, but I did know it. And I think obviously it was being suppressed, and maybe the red top said, okay, well, if that's the way you want to play the game, well, we'll take you down by hook or by crook. Kathy, would this story have been any different? And as I say, we'll move on shortly. Would this story have been any different if the younger person in question was a woman?
I think it probably would have been a lot different, actually, Greg. I think we still have very much inequality around these issues. I do think something about the coverage, though. The red tops in Britain, it's like a Punch and Judy show, They lift you up, they elevate you. Phillip Schofield was, like a saint. And all of a sudden, the fall from grace, it's like he fell into the piranha pit, you know, and it's actually very distasteful when you see it in action. Holly Willoughby is you know, they're ITV are trying to protect their prize asset at all costs.
Well, she's finished as well, if the truth be told.
It's very difficult to know how she survives this. You know, it really is. But I think that you know, the Punch and Judy show that we've seen is just really it's quite unseemly, really, around the whole thing.
Joe, did you follow this at all?
No, not really. But it's just it's the same story. You're elevated, and then
you're chopped down.
You're chopped down, yeah.
They love to build you up and take you down. The Dáil's been told it will be impossible for a single person on a medium wage in Donegal to buy a house in the county. Thomas Pringle made that claim based on recent CSO figures which showed Donegal still has the lowest income in the state. He sat down with some mortgage calculator programmes, started looking at estate agents to see what could be bought, and the bottom line is that, you know, on the average, the median wage in this county, a single person perhaps could at a stretch get a mortgage for 80-odd thousand, and what kind of a property might you get for that? I mean, it's what is your view on this, Joe? It's kind of depressing, presumably for younger people. Maybe that's why they're leaving in the numbers that they are.
It is probably there was a lot of schemes that the government has brought in, like the buy to let and them sort of schemes for sort of helping people to buy homes, but probably one of the better schemes that I think they have introduced just lately is the vacant home and the derelict property scheme, because there is homes scattered all over the countryside and towns, and they're allowing a €50,000 grant for it. If it's derelict, it's worth another 20.
I'd love to see the uptake on that, though, and sort of what kind of properties in terms of numbers are being delivered on that scheme, because there's been a lot of schemes, and listen, I don't want it to fail, but you know, it'll be interesting to see a year, 2 years on what it's actually delivering.
Well, it's probably because there's the planning thing is easier to get because the house is there already. There's probably no development charges. And then there's the €30,000 upgrades from sustainable energy. So it would be worth a lot for that sort of property, for even people to move back that can't get planning in rural areas.
Yeah.
They could end up further down the line being carers for elderly parents and that sort of stuff. So it would be a gain there.
Declan, what's your view? Again, I respect what Joe's saying. I just don't know if a lot of maybe 28-year-olds are sort of maybe looking at acquiring a property or having a property that they could start availing of this type of scheme. But as I say, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. But just to the wider point and to that specific point, if you wish, you know, it is probably, you know, you need hope in this life, and I just wonder if young people, when they see the money they can earn and see what the prospects are we going to be able to hold on to them?
I think any hope that young people have about securing their own home probably comes in the form of hoping for a change of government, to be honest. This government, these political parties have been in power for a very long time. They've presided over a housing crisis, which has become a housing disaster. It's omnipresent. The figures are constantly getting worse, not better. We have over 12,300 people who are homeless. And yet we have, according to the census, which obviously we got a data dump again this week, you know, you have nearly 170,000 vacant homes and apartments across the state. So government policy across all of this area is failing. Homelessness is increasing. It's becoming more difficult and more expensive to get on the property ladder. If you're not on the property ladder or have no prospect of doing that, it's actually very difficult even to rent. And I think, you know, we need to look at the reality of the situation where, you know, you would expect census figures, and we know anecdotally, and we know people who are in their 20s, 30s and even 40s who are living at home with their parents because they can't afford to rent or to buy. So, I mean, there's just no two ways about it. I mean, we talk about this and we talk about this and we talk about this, but it doesn't seem like government are ever listening, because at the end of the day, the government that we have and the governments that we have had over the past number of years and decades have become ideologically opposed to building social housing, which would be a huge pressure valve on the property market across the state if proper social housing was being invested in. We've privatised that area. What we've done is we've given out the housing assistance payment, which goes straight into landlords' pockets instead, to the tune of over 100 million a year. And previously, that 100 million a year would be invested into housing stock, which would be an asset for the state, which would be an amenity for the people. But that's not done anymore.
It does kind of remind you a little bit of the National Treatment Purchase Fund, which is putting money into private hospitals that probably should be going into public hospitals. But you're not being a bit hard on the government there. They're saying they're building record. Well, I have to do something, Declan. Give me your break.
I mean,
I have to try and balance it out to some extent here. Record levels
can try and balance it. Right, but the reality is, we have record high homelessness. We have extremely expensive rental market and a property market, and there's an awful lot of number of schemes that have been brought in. Some of them have been announced and then re-announced as new measures, which have very low uptake and have very little effect.
There was a website started one time where the public was supposed to go around and take pictures of derelict houses and send them into the council. That's the type of stuff we hear over and over again. It'll be interesting too in terms of the census, because we haven't got the actual figures, but we've got some figures. We have a slowing birth rate in Donegal. We've got a lower than elsewhere increase in population, but we are seeing really quite a significant increase in the amount of people in households, which would probably suggest that children are moving back home or staying longer in the home. Kathy, is it realistic for us to be able to change it now to the point whereby people can realistically aspire to build or own their own property as a single person, in their 20s or 30s? I mean, are those bygone days that are behind us, or could policy be changed to bring them back again, do you think?
I think you used the word hope there, Greg, and I think we have to hope that things will get better. First thing I would say on this is that we do census surveys. These are done to show us, to give us a roadmap for the future. To say that the government or previous governments did not know population trends, to say that they can't see what's coming is not the truth, because they know that our population, they know what's coming, they know what areas are growing in population, and they can see what needs to be built in terms of schools, in terms of health provision, in terms of housing, and we haven't cracked this nut at all. We haven't come anywhere close. We've got a huge budget surplus. I think we've got something like next year, I think it's going to be like 10 billion. What are we going to do with that money? All these questions are being asked now. Surely the most pressing issue in this country facing anyone today is housing for young people. And if you've got children coming up, you want to think that they will be able to, in their lives, afford their own home. The other elephant in this room that we have to mention, especially when it comes to Donegal, is Micah. We have got, I think, Pádraig McLaughlin this week called it the perfect storm. And that's what we have coming. I know, like neighbours of mine, I can see there's houses being demolished this week. Where are people going to go when these houses are demolished?
But what I don't understand is why they don't dig into the 380 odd million that was returned over the last 3 years to the Department of Housing underspend and spend it on. I don't understand why there's this resistance to provide, prefabricated homes in parts of Donegal. I don't understand it. They're about to open some down in Cork. The money is there. The money is in excess. It is actually really quite a simple solution. But I don't understand, Kathy, what the resistance to do that is. It's literally, I don't know what's going on in terms of the defective concrete, the civil service, elected politicians, and that relationship that seems to be trying to frustrate what's happening here in Donegal. That's how it feels. I'm not sure if it's the case, but for me, it can be the only explanation that there are solutions there that would deliver great PR and what have you. It'd be really good news for the minister, I'd say, if he could announce 50 prefabricated houses or what have you, but they're not doing it, and I don't understand why not, Kathy.
I think there's a huge disconnect between what Micah campaigners want and what the government is offering. Sometimes it seems like we're tantalisingly close to a solution, and then
but it seems more sinister than that. It seems more sinister than that sometimes.
It's absolutely heartbreaking, and I have stood in the kitchen of families, and looked at their, at the house crumbling, and it's absolutely devastating. And I think it is, this is for all of us, not just the families with Micah. This is a legacy issue for everybody in Donegal. We need to raise all boats here, and this issue needs to be grasped. And so some of this money needs to sort out this problem for these families. This cannot continue. It is an absolute human rights disaster in this county. And you know what? Housing for everybody cannot be sorted until we grasp this nettle and get this done.
And Joe Sweeney, if we are moving away from the home ownership model, like you might see in different parts of the world, the government then needs to, or whoever it is, we need to have a frank and honest conversation about that then, because that means we need to start delivering different types of housing. Kathy talked about planning for the future. So we can't have a situation where someone reaches retirement age in 30 or 40 years and they're still renting. We need to have different types of accommodation, which we don't have at the moment. So if we are moving away from that, then governments need to be honest about that. Let's have that conversation and then talk about the different types of housing requirements that will be required in generations to come, Joe.
Yeah, and I think that's going to go on for generations, because I don't see any solution anytime soon that's going to change, because like we have the Micah, we have the immigration, we have people living in whatchamacallit, can't even think of the name now.
No, that's all right.
Direct provision.
Direct provision, yeah, go ahead. And my headphones cut out or had jumped in there for some reason, but go ahead.
The direct provision, there's people there for 10 years living in direct provision. So, there has to be a change, but how it's going to, I'm not sure. Yeah.
And also, too, Kathy, with this not funny situation, but this situation, too, whereby, at what stage do you kind of get rid of the kids? And that sounds like a terrible thing to say, right? Okay. But they're living at home. Probably to whatever, might get married or find a partner or whatever, move out. They might choose to have kids, and then grannies and granddads are becoming the free childminding service. Then what stage do we get to enjoy our retirement?
I think
it's not right, related, but you know what I mean. It's
no, it is. But I think there is another sort of inherent inequality in this as well. In that, if you are not a couple or a family, people talk about now this bank of mom and dad, that's sort of helping a lot of people. But if you're not in a position, as most people are not, they're thinking about, their retirement. They're thinking how are we going to cope with retirement if you don't have a pension plan, or, as many people don't. Like, if you don't have, if you're not able, to give your kids that leg up, then there's another layer of inequality there as well. And many families cannot do that, So, lots of people wouldn't have a problem with their kids coming home, but it's like, we've got them this far, we've got them reared, we've put them through school, maybe college. You have to hope. I mean, your idea when you have your children is that, you give them their own wings to fly, and you give them, the strong roots that they can come home to. But, it's not forever. You want to see them progress. It must be heartbreaking for families who watch, their children sort of in the spare room still, wondering, am I ever going to get on? And actually their dreams being quashed before their very eyes. I mean, that's kind of its own heartbreak.
And in a way, it does inhibit probably the not natural, but, the way you start dating and stuff, maybe it's with a house, but bring it back to your parents' house. I don't know. Lots of single people, actually. That's one thing that I'd never considered in the census. Right, it's in the 30s in Donegal. I think in Dublin it's around about 50%. Declan, did that come as a surprise to you, the amount of single people there are? Fair play to them, like.
I'm not sure if it's surprising or not, but
I never thought about it, you see. Yeah. So if you would have asked me to guess, then I would have to have thought about it. But I was like, well, all right, now we know. There's lots of single people out there.
Yeah, I think, though, as well, like, when you're talking about, people having to live at home, that obviously impacts potential for dating and romance.
Yeah.
But I think just on, like, to kind of, I suppose, come back to something that Kathy was saying there as well, you know, we're talking specifically about, you know, can a single person in Donegal ever afford to buy a home in the county? And you know, mica, defective blocks, defective concrete, you know, that has a huge impact on the housing market. I mean, you would see 1980s 2 beds and 3 beds now going for much more money than previously, because they're worth much more money, because there's more certainty over the fact that they don't have defective blocks than houses that were built during the boom. I'm sitting in my house in a room that when the rain comes in a particular direction, the water comes in due to defective blocks. So, like, you know, this is something that is so widespread across the whole county. It's not been addressed. The scheme that's coming up won't address it in a timely
And then
fashion.
too, you have people, don't you, Declan, who have bought houses unknown to them that they had mica. You have had people who got their houses tested with certain levels of mica that don't qualify them for the scheme, but that it disqualifies them really from having a property of any value. Like, there's so many nuances, and this net is so wide, isn't it, Declan? Because I think it's easy, you know, one house structurally falling to bits. Government should support to fix that. That's kind of easy to get the head around, as disastrous as it is. But this is very complex and nuanced. And there's so many other people sitting at home wondering, well, nothing really covers me. What am I going to do?
Yeah, and it's very difficult. It's very frustrating for people. And, you know, this has been going on for years. The new scheme doesn't really guarantee a lot of people any certainty. We know that it's far from a 100% redress scheme. And when this is opened, I mean, I saw an example the last day where someone who had a rebuild of 350,000, they'd be eligible for 65,000 of that cost themselves under an alleged 100% scheme. So yeah, there are so many different parts to this. And one of the things that, you know, I think that needs to be done is this needs to be treated as a natural disaster, similar to a natural disaster, where there is a massive campaign to have workforce brought in to just rebuild the houses that need to be rebuilt.
The only problem
this isn't a natural disaster.
Yeah, of course,
it's a man-made disaster.
It is, but the only thing is, and the problem is that for that you need a national buy-in, and the majority of the population, because of the narrative that's been put out there, believe that Donegal's sorted. So, in other words, even now, if you start protesting, it's like, well, what are you protesting about? Darragh O'Brien was asked on RTE, you know, Donegal's sorted, what next? And he says, yeah, it is. This is what's next. So, I get you. And another element to this, too, is to break it down to the human side of things. And it's all human, Joe Sweeney, don't get me wrong. But, you know, it's like parents, we talk about those children that are at home. I want to say children, you know, adult children. And they say, you know, Dad, Mom, you know, what shall I do? You know, I'm still here. I'm frustrated. I'm starting to feel a bit depressed or whatever. And we've got parents having to say, well, why don't you go to Australia, or why don't you go to Dubai, or, you know, breaking their own hearts to try and, you know, offer a future for their children. That is where we're at. And those are the conversations that are happening at kitchen tables in Donegal. That is devastating, because I can't imagine being able to have that conversation with my children. And that's the only way I can sort of relate to it.
Yeah, it is devastating. The amount of young people that have left the county, even since the beginning of the year, like every parish. So, like, you have parishes now that even can't even put together a football team or whatever because of the immigration. They're going in their hundreds. Everyone.
I mean, hundreds of years ago, or not that long ago, we would have had parents that were down at, I don't know, there was different places where the boats departed to get onto the ferries to America, and parents would have said goodbye to their children, probably knowing they'd never see them again, because they were heading off in a boat for to make a better life, and they were saying goodbye and happy for them maybe that they had a future, but knowing they would probably never see them again. That's happening at Dublin Airport now. I mean, they might see them once a year or once every other year or whatever, but there are parents saying goodbye to young people, and that's probably really the last, you know, long-term interaction they will have with them. I mean, that's what's happening. I mean, that's the real human impact to everything that's going on. And yet we're such a wealthy country with such a surplus, and this is happening.
Yeah, so they leave, and by the time they come back, they don't know them, because they've grown up, they've changed, they've moved into relationships of whatever. So, like, they've lost out on so much in life. The only thing that's keeping them, making it easier is the technology. And
well, but that's I know what you're saying, but
it's not easy. Like,
do you have a view on that, Kathy? Just before we take a break and move on to it.
Yeah, I read this morning that people thought the remote working was going to change everything. I think we have to be careful here. There is a real opportunity, to allow for proper decentralization. There is still time, to take advantage of this and to allow the regions to really benefit from that. And it would be a shame to see that, we saw huge changes during COVID-19, during the pandemic. Lots of us learned how to work in different ways. It would be a shame to see that rolled back, and that the government wouldn't take advantage of something that we saw was possible that could really, really benefit areas like Donegal. I wouldn't like to see that happen.
All right, that's the voice of Kathy Donaghy, who's an author and journalist. You're also hearing from Joe Sweeney, the Donegal chair of the IFA, and Declan Meehan, community campaigner. We'll be back with more from our guests and your comments as they come in after these.
Clothing Letterkenny Retail Park and online at evolveclothing.com. Bank holiday sale now on. Everything reduced at Evolve Clothing. Don't miss it.
Are you tired of working from home with constant distractions? Don't let the summer chaos hinder your productivity. Join G-Tech Digital Hub today. Say goodbye to the house full of people and hello to working on your own terms. G-Tech Digital Hub, Termon and Carrigart. Call 074 91 54 291 to secure your spot.
After last week's brilliant win at Treaty United, Finn Harps are back in action with 2 fixtures over the bank holiday weekend. The Ballabafay Blues host Kerry on Friday night at Finn Park and then face Galway United away on bank holiday Monday. Tune into Highland for coverage for both games. Finn Harps on Highland in association with B&S Credit Union Ballabafay, where they have that perfect holiday loan for you. Don't delay, get your holiday loan today. Visit bnscu.ie or call free phone 1800 290 390. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Tired of unwanted hair? L'Amour Beauty Skin and Laser Clinic, Shore Road, Ramelton is offering an exclusive June special. Free laser hair removal consultation, and when you buy 2 areas, you get a 3rd area for free. For more specials, visit L'Amour Beauty Skin and Laser Clinic on Facebook.
Not sure where to start with your smart meter? Sign up to a Home Electric Plus smart meter price plan from Electric Ireland to see how much energy your appliances are actually using. Track your usage monthly, daily or even hourly and get tips and advice on how to use less. It's a smart start to controlling your energy usage. To sign up, search Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Smart meter and online account required. Features available after 4 months. T's and C's apply. See electricireland.ie.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time's 9:33, so just a quick tag on, and it's actually the part of the conversation that got most reaction in that Thomas Pringle is amongst a group of politicians that believe that there is an inequality here, that we have very few long-term rental properties available in Donegal to fix a lot of the problems that we've discussed here. But there is a plethora, over 1,000 homes available for short letting on Airbnb and other websites. Now, he is unapologetic in saying effectively that those people should be taxed out of Airbnb and incentivised to transfer those properties into long-term rentals. Are you minded similarly, Declan? I mean, my concern, and I expressed it with Deputy Pringle, and just to be clear again, I've no skin in the game here, was that, it's a bit of an overreach trying to get the public who have properties for a number of reasons, maybe inheritance or an investment, to what would effectively be fix all the problems that you've laid at the government's doorstep over successive governments to fix the housing problem. What do you think should be done in that regard? Would you be in favour of taxing people out of Airbnbs?
No, I wouldn't. I think that we need a combination of both. I mean, the tourism and hospitality industry in Donegal is an incredibly important one. I think that there is value in privately rented houses for short-term lets across the county, particularly in the context we find ourselves where an awful lot of hotel accommodation is otherwise occupied. But I do think, and I think that the way we address the problem is that more social housing is built, which takes people who are seeking social housing out of the private market. I mean, there is no one measure that will fix all. I do think as well that planning regimes around short-term lets need to be enforced better, whereby, you're not constantly building holiday accommodation, and that there is a priority given to building accommodation for people to purchase, but also people to live in long term, whether that's.
But his argument is in a housing crisis, you do have to do emergency things, and we need to discourage short term lets and encourage long term letting. But that's not something you're in favour of, heavy taxation. Really, it's to get people out of the Airbnb market now.
No, it's not. It's not something that I think is the right thing to do, because I think that the hospitality and tourism industry in Donegal is very dependent on those, and there has to be a coexistence between the two. And while it's absolutely not ideal that is the case, where we have over 1,000 short-term lets through Airbnbs in Donegal, and very, very few long-term lets available on sites like daft.ie, that has to be addressed at a different level, and that is just building houses for long-term lets, building social housing for people who need that housing.
Joe Sweeney, what's your view?
Well, I would agree with Philip, because
with Declan.
Declan, sorry,
no problem. You don't have the access to the screen I have. But go ahead.
No, I would agree, because I think the quick solution is to put on a tax, and everything seems to be taxed to sort a problem that's still not getting sorted. There's a lot of value in short-term rent for the local economy. So, no, I would totally disagree with that altogether.
And would any of that be concerns about maybe an overreach from government into people's private property? Does that bother? Is it more that you think people should be able to make an income that way, or do you have any concerns that it would be, more government control over people's, property effectively?
It's probably, there's both. It's government control is one, but there's other people then sort of. It's an income. They're depending on it. It might be the only income they have, really. Short-term letting and stuff. So no, I would totally disagree with it.
And I wonder too, is a wee bit of an elephant in the room also that the word landlord's almost become a dirty word now, and people would relate to programmes like this is that they're trying to get out of that market. In other words, the way it's set up, they used to perhaps make properties available for long-term lets, but they couldn't deal with the hassle and the admin and the red tape, and that this is a much easier option to do. I think really that is something I would focus more on there, because why did a lot of them exit long-term rents in the first place?
Well, probably the exit because it wasn't financially lucrative enough for them, and probably more hassle than what it was worth. So they probably got out and the short-term lets easier.
Kathy, what's your views on this?
Well, I don't think we have like a landlord culture in Donegal in the same way as we do in Dublin and the big towns and cities. I do think that people who are renting out on Airbnb, these are short-term lets. I mean, let's face it, they're not really renting it in the month of November, December. Are they? They've got a few short months. People want to come to Donegal. We do want people to come to Donegal. We do want people to come and visit here. There's boost to local economy. We can see people shopping in local businesses, taking trips, taking boat trips, going to water parks, doing all the things that we want people to come and see our beautiful county. So, to put people out of Airbnbs, where are they going to go? Where, there's not enough. Try and get a hotel room in the peak of summer.
Okay, but here's where I try and play devil's advocate then that benefits the few, right? But those same houses that you talk of are lying empty perhaps from September through to April again, and there are people lying on the streets in sofas, on sofas. The group of young people that we talk of, older young people that are still living at home, whilst I think the last census it was 10 or 11 empty houses in Donegal. I mean, that maybe when someone looks at that, that's why they say, well, that's an inequality there.
Yeah, I get that, and you know, in this country we have not wanted to intervene in the market in this way, and we need to get radical. I just don't know that this is the way to go. I agree with Declan that social and affordable housing is the way to go. The government scheme that Joe mentioned earlier on, about derelict houses, and we have, apartments above shops and apartments, on main streets. We if we're going to get really radical, we need to look at how we live in this country. Years ago, people did live above the shop. They did live in different ways. The model that we have in how we live is broken. We need to be completely radical and open to new ways of living and bringing and breathing life back into our towns and cities. That means better public transport. That means better facilities. That means lots of change. It is fixable, but we do have to have some blue sky thinking here. Things cannot be done in the same way anymore. And that, I don't know that, some people I know who have Airbnbs, and I have no skin in the game in this in any shape or form, but they will say, it's taken over. It's washing its face. This is not something that's
I don't think anyone's making a million out of it. But just on that fixer-upper scheme, Greg, $50,000 to fix up an old house won't go anywhere. I priced a kitchen to build onto a house, so you can imagine it. They're building a kitchen out the back of the house. They were interested in it, and to build it alone, not finished, only to build and plaster 12 foot by 10 foot, €47,000 is how much it was to add on a kitchen to the back of a house. Declan, you wanted to come back in there. I seem to have got the impression.
Oh, yeah. Well, just to say kind of on the Airbnb thing, the vast majority of Airbnbs in Donegal are family owned, whereby they're holiday homes or inherited homes or whatever that someone has inherited from their parent or their grandparent where they used to live, and they're used for personal use throughout the year, and then they're Airbnb'd out partially. So highly taxing the Airbnb side of things would not necessarily free up those homes, because people would just maybe not put them up on Airbnb for the weeks that they're not using them, and they would just remain vacant. I think that where the focus needs to be is up and down every single main street in every town and village in the county, in the country. In Milford, there's a 50% vacancy rate on Main Street. That's a huge number.
The highest vacancy. Now, it is commercial, but I'm sure it's convertible. It's the highest, consistently. We do have the space in the areas that Kathy was talking of, don't we? Sorry, Declan, to jump on your point.
For me, it's not the Airbnb things, because they are owned by people and used by people, and there's a side hustle maybe to earn a bit of money and to keep those going. But it is the vacant properties where we need to focus on, and taxing them highly would be a really good idea to force people to either sell them or develop them.
All right, okay. Listen, I do have to catch up on one more break here. Well, it's not one more, there's two. Say nothing. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Mum, hi, I'm at the Garda station, but it's nothing. I told this girl I was seeing for a while that I'd put shots of her up online. Shots she sent me, so they're mine, really. I only said I'd do it, but the guards are saying that's a crime now. It's not my fault, Mum. I didn't do anything. I only said I would.
Threatening to share intimate images is a crime with serious consequences. Contact your local Garda station if you need to report it. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Time is ticking on the sizzling summer sale at Easy Living Furniture. With absolutely everything reduced, now is the time to spruce up your space with stylish furniture and unbeatable savings. From cosy sofas to elegant dining sets, we have the perfect pieces to transform your home. But hurry, this sizzling sale ends this Sunday. Don't miss out on the hottest prices of the season. Visit Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Would you like to treat the kids to a free day out on Saturday, 10th of June? There's lots of free events taking place near you for Crinne and Og. From babies to teens, there's a huge variety of creative activities across the county. Don't be disappointed and book your free place now at waynefest.ie.
Welcome to the Spa at Orchids, one of Europe's largest spas at the Holyrood Hotel, Bundoran. Discover tranquility in our Japanese-themed garden, boasting 7 treatment rooms, seaweed baths, and a secret garden with an outside hot tub and sauna. Now, let me take you to the heart of Bundoran, where you'll find the Holyrood Hotel Spa and Leisure Centre. Don't miss out on our exclusive midweek hotel specials. More information at holyroodhotel.com.
The Reverend Jim Lamont presents an evening of music and song in Angrillen Theatre, Letterkenny on Friday 9th of June at 8 p.m. with UP and Maria Doherty, Diane and Iona Holt, Diane Leckie, Andrea Long, Amy Meehan and the Regent Quartet. Tickets €15 on sale now from the theatre box office. Proceeds in aid of the Donegal Hospice. An evening of music, stories and a Donegal farewell. At Angrillen Theatre, Letterkenny on Friday 9th of June. Buncrana Music Festival Friday 30th of June and Saturday 1st of July, featuring Scouting for Girls, Jake Bug, Hermitage Green, Pa Sheehy, Sive Skelly, The Midnight Preachers and Riva. Buncrana Music Festival Friday 30th of June and Saturday 1st of July. Get your tickets now at buncranamusicfestival.com.
Hi, Pauline McLean here, sharing something really important. When someone's having a stroke, minutes matter because 2 million brain cells die every minute. So call 112 or 999 if you see any of these FAST signs. F for face, has it fallen on one side? A for arms, can both be held up? S for speech, is it slurred? T for time, it's time to call 112 or 999 fast. Learn more at irishheart.ie.
Summer sale now on in Milford Tiles. 20% off wall and floor tiles, 15% off all bathware, 10% off all wood flooring. Fitters and delivery service available. Call Milford Tiles on 083 0910 707.
This summer, enjoy the tastiest burger in town for less at Kelly's Diner, Letterkenny. With Jake's famous burgers, there's your choice of burger, beef, chicken or veggie, all freshly prepared, with your pick of delicious toppings and sides. Selected burger deals every weekend. Find the best value burger in town. Jake's Burgers at Kelly's Diner, Mountain Top, Letterkenny.
Itchy eyes, running nose, wheezy and mean hay fever is back on the attack. As pharmacists, Brennan's have a wide range of allergy remedies to come to your rescue. And we can advise you on how to lessen those hay fever attacks. So come in for a chat and we can talk through your options. In private if you like. You'll be back to enjoying summer in no time. For expert hay fever advice you can trust without the wait, we're always here for you. Just ask at your local Brennan's pharmacy.
Caller says, yes, our young people leaving in huge numbers. 300 have left in a shown in the past few months. When they look around and see what's going on, would you blame them? Another, listen, this is passing the government problem onto the people, drawing the real problem away once again from the true problem, which is the government's one. What a selfish thing to suggest. I don't have a second home, but if I did, I think I would be entitled to do with it as I please. Banks, surveyors turn these vacant houses down for least... wee thing. Happened to a girl I know, had a good job and the deposit. Okay. By not benefiting the needs of the people and protecting companies, the government are in breach of the Constitution and cannot be allowed to continue in their job. Surely there is legal channels we can pursue to get change. Greg, I've no time for Phillip Schofield, but Amos Holmes is coming across as a seriously bitter man with his own agenda. I don't think he's doing himself any favours. I agree with Joe on the initiative to bring derelict buildings back to use. It would give a facelift to the whole country, save our heritage and vastly improve our housing situation. Another here, couldn't agree more with Declan. Houses being built all over Northern Ireland. More social houses being built in Sign Mills than the whole of Donegal. Government and council are completely failing people in the country. That comes in from Martin. And I did notice that driving to Dublin a couple of times, you see activity, you see building activity, and then you cross the border into the Republic and then nothing. So there has to be something to that, doesn't there, Declan? I mean, you know, it's anecdotal because you see it, but there's activity in the 6 counties, and then it just
absolutely
seems... Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you drive anywhere through the north and you know, it's plain to see that there is activity.
And they don't have a government.
And they don't even have a government, exactly.
Is that the future?
I mean, the councils have, I suppose, more foresight than maybe our councils or our government or our Department of Housing in terms of meeting the needs around social housing. They also have one housing agency for the whole of Northern Ireland, which I think actually helps in terms of them deliver. But I mean, the point still stands that there's very little activity on this side of the border in Donegal, and somewhere that has no government and isn't as wealthy in terms of tax returns or anything like that as we are in the south, is able to produce the level of social housing. So it is possible. It's just that government policy is failing us.
A decision on a possible scheme to reduce the national dairy herd will be made over the next few months, Minister for Agriculture Charlie McConalogue has said to someone else. The total number of dairy cows in Ireland may need to be reduced by up to 65,000 a year over the next 3 years if the farming sector is to reach its climate targets. This according to an internal discussion paper drawn up by the Department of Agriculture. Now, figures contained in an internal Department of Agricultural paper show that dairy farmers may have to be paid up to 600 million to cull cows if the country is to meet its climate change targets. So the focus back on you guys again. You're destroying the world, seemingly. If you were to read a lot of the press coverage. What is it? Farming is what percentage of our output? 17, or is it higher than that? 27, maybe.
Maybe 17. It's not that high because if we worked on tonnes, the transport industry would have CO2 emissions of about 121 million tonnes per year. Residential and industry would somewhere around 65, where farming is 5 million. So, like, all right, see, they're the low fruit on the tree to pick. It's easy to pick it, but like they're taking the the carbon from the cattle and the suckler herd, but they're not taking into consideration then the grass that's growing on the farm, the trees, the hedgerows, whatever. So, like, it just seems to be one way.
What does it mean for the farming industry if 200,000 dairy cows are taken out of the system?
Well, the dairy has really expanded over the last.
Well, you were encouraged to actually by previous governments. You were told get more cows, get more milk.
And then just sort of overnight. Whoa, hold on. It's like they took away quotas and whatever and encouraged. Now it's overnight. Whoa, hold on, we have too many. We need to roll back. The dairy farmers at the minute actually need to rent more land to stay still because there's
Tell me why they're doing that. Why are they not buying up or renting more land? What's the logic there? Is it less cows per land then? Is that right? Okay, it's the ratio.
Yeah, it's nitrates.
So to stay in it, they're actually just leasing land to build their holding.
Just to keep the same number.
Right, okay.
So the nitrates have come from 250 to 220. So they need more land for that. So then that's putting more pressure on the suckler farm, the sheep farm, and in particular the grain farm. I can't get a sense of this. Are farmers, if they're paid to get out and well rewarded, are they happy to get out? Some of them, but the other side of it is we still need food. So we could throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yes, for some it will be, but not for all because we still need food. And will they get paid? I don't know. It's all to be seen. It's like a lot of it's talk.
But I mean, policy's working, isn't it? Because the one area, the one of a couple of areas that we saw a reduction in employment in a country with full employment was in agriculture and fishing.
Yeah, but we have a case where we're looking at urbanisation, where if we go back 150 years ago, 80% of the population lived in rural areas, 20% was in urban. By 2050, it's going to be a total reverse. We're going to have 80% living in towns and cities and villages, and 20.
But do you get the feeling that maybe the plan is that we're one big data centre rather than one big farm on this island?
Well, like the same amount of food is still being produced on farms. But if you go back years ago, there were smaller farms and there was someone on every one. Now it's the farms are being consolidated.
But just to get to the nitty gritties, are farmers going to resist the plans by government, or are they waiting to see the colour of the money?
A lot of them's going to resist it.
Is the IFA en masse going to resist this?
Oh yeah, because we still have to produce food. We still need farms. So we still have to. We still have a population to feed.
Yeah, it does seem to be we're in changing times, Kathy, in terms of the place that those who make decisions see farming in our future.
I think change is coming for sure, Greg. And the one thing that always strikes me, and I am no expert on farming, I would totally have to defer to Joe on this one. But
he had a go at the Phillip Schofield topic, so
exactly.
you're going to have to have a go at farming.
Yeah, I'll do my best, Greg. And I know this from talking to farmers, and recent years I've been going to a few marts. That's been one of my assignments, go in and talk to farmers, get the lie of the land, see what's going on. And farmers in Donegal, what they've said to me is, what muddies the waters is these figures on culling the national herd of 200,000 and the dairy farmers. Dairy farmers are at the upper end of farming. What we have in Donegal is small holdings, farmers with sheep and suckler cattle. But we don't have these big farms. What strikes me always when I talk to farmers in Donegal is they'll tell you that they don't see a future for their children, and they couldn't be doing it if they weren't doing another job. So that they're sort of doing a bit of this and a bit of that, but they're also farming as well. So it seems to me, do we want to have farming at the centre of life in rural Ireland, that we have that connection with the land?
But we're paying, but the plan seems to be, and Joe knows more than this, of course. But we're paying fishermen to tie up their boats and not fish, and we're paying farmers to get rid of their animals and to plant trees. And we're losing generations of people going into those industries. So it's death. It seems to me death by 1,000 cuts. Declan, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that, look, the figure I heard last night was that agriculture was responsible for around 38% of emissions.
I think you're right.
But the figure varies, I'm sure, depending on what way you want to spin it or count it. There's no doubt that something has to be done. And I think, from reading into this, the IFA are willing to bring their members along to cooperate with government to get there. But the goalposts keep changing for farmers. I mean, we talk about the milk quotas being increased, production being ramped up. Now they're being told that it needs to be decreased with the cull. Is it any wonder that farmers don't have any trust in successive governments to deliver meaningful kind of reform that addresses climate change?
Right.
So there is a real scepticism there. But I think that the farming community, the small family farmer, is an incredibly important part of Irish rural life, and there has to be proper engagement there and consultation to see in what ways they can address it through innovation and technology, but also through things like changing and adapting fertilizers, feeds for cows, all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of potential there. Also around solar power. I mean, there's barns and sheds the length and breadth of the county and the country that aren't being used. There's a 16 billion surplus. If the government is serious about bringing farmers along with them and addressing climate change and addressing emissions targets, then there's a lot of money there that can be spent on utilising those buildings to microgenerate.
Yeah, I thought there was a major solar farm proposed that actually was refused planning down the country. But anyway, Declan Meehan, thank you so very much as always. If I was a farmer with 20 cows and I'm listening to the news about not one car parking space available at an airport in Ireland, I'd be going, hold on a second here. Am I doing all the heavy lifting? But anyway, be that as it may. Kathy, it's been lovely having you on. You will come back, won't you?
Well, of course, anytime. Thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you so very much indeed. And last but not least, Joe Sweeney, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Greg.
Good stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. And you'll come back?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Certainly.
All right, fair play. Joe Sweeney there. I'll thank the guests once again and get to your comments properly after we take a break for the news and obituary notices.
With a high digital online skills course, you'll feel a real difference.
I can listen to all the music I like. The bus app that's coming out, it's brilliant.
Anything you want to know, it's at their fingertips.
They're small things, but they mean something.
Learn essential online skills with simple, accessible lessons at highdigital.ie or free phone 1800 20 30 30. Brought to you by Vodafone Ireland Foundation and Alone. Vodafone. Together we can.
Let's call out his name.
Denise
Anish Tractor Run Malin, Sunday 4th of June. Live charity auction plus barbecue with Pig on the Spit. Live music from 6 p.m. with Mike Denver and his band, Jim Devine, Liam McDermott and Shuni Cramsey. Proceeds to the Donegal Hospice, Huey's Corner and the Intellectual Disability Play Area in Carndona. That's Sunday 4th of June. Anish Tractor Run with entertainment live in the marquee at Malin Stables. This ad is kindly sponsored by Millbrook Joinery Malin.
Is the appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
Breedon's Furniture, Cooley-Maville. With over 40 years of experience in furniture and floor coverings, they've got Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining, flooring, slide robes and occasional furniture. Great prices and large selection now available at Breedon's Home Furnitures, Cooley-Maville.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. Donegal County Council has been warned that it must take the tenant in situ scheme seriously, otherwise people will end up homeless. In a bid to limit damage caused by the eviction ban being lifted, government promoted the initiative which would allow the housing agency buy rental properties from private landlords. Councillor Noel Jordan says the processing of the scheme by the local authority is too slow, while at the same time termination notice dates are fast approaching for many. The council says they're committed to rolling it out as quickly as possible, but Councillor Jordan says it must be quicker.
I've spoken to a number of constituents where the landlord has pushed that date out maybe by a month, saying, but we need to have news by then or else you're out. And, you know, I think it's very unfair. And then people now, you know, I would have been hoping to get a better response than that. I'm just hugely annoyed that this process has been dragged out and it wasn't thought through.
239 private houses were acquired by Donegal County Council between 2016 and 2021. It's led to concern that there is a lack of appetite from the local authority to engage in that process. Councillor Terry Crossan says a large number of property owners have expressed interest in selling their homes to the council, but nothing's come to fruition. Councillor Crossan believes communication is lacking between homeowners and the council.
I had a house that became available in Killee, a very good quality 4-bedroom house, and there is a very high demand for 4-bedroom houses. This lady went out of her way and had her house actually tested for mica, made that information all available to the Donegal County Council, yet the degree of communication between the council and her was practically zero.
The Ukrainian ambassador to Ireland is in Donegal today. Larissa Garasko will officially open an art exhibition at Ungrenan Theatre this afternoon. The exhibition features works by more than 20 artists from Ukraine now living in Ireland, reflecting the creative process of painters who are adjusting and acclimatising to life here against the backdrop of war and displacement. Gardaí and Donegal are urging motorists to save lives this bank holiday weekend by slowing down. It's after 2 drivers were caught speeding by the Buncrana Roads Policing Unit this week. The motorists were detected travelling in excess of the 100km speed limit near Burt. Gardaí say they'll be on the lookout for people driving while holding their mobile phones this weekend. The Roads Policing Division has issued a safety appeal for the bank holiday. In partnership with the Road Safety Authority, they're urging people to show special care toward vulnerable road users. The Assistant Commissioner for Roads Policing, Paula Hillman, says mobile phone use in particular will be targeted.
We can issue fixed charge notices for mobile phone use. This year alone, in the first 4 months of this year, we've issued over 4,600 tickets. So yes, having your phone in your hand, using your mobile phone when driving can be given a fixed charge notice. And that's one of the lifesaver offences. That's one of the offences that we will be targeting this weekend.
People are being urged to take measures over the holiday weekend to prevent getting sunburn and risking skin cancer. The Irish Cancer Society says adhering to their SunSmart code is the best way to prevent burning. It includes wearing a hat, using high-factor sunscreen and covering up with clothes. Director of Advocacy and External Affairs, Rachel Morrow, says skin cancer is the most common cancer in Ireland. 13,000 new cases are diagnosed every year.
There's around 13,000 skin cancers diagnosed every year in Ireland, and around 9 in 10 of them are preventable because they're caused by UV rays from the sun. And we know that this weekend the UV index will be quite high. So it's one of the most common cancers in Ireland, and there are things that we can all do to reduce our risk of skin cancer.
More roadworks are set to commence in Letterkenny next week. Essential maintenance is being carried out on the N13 dual carriageway between the Dry Arch and Manor Cunningham roundabouts. The works will last from June 7th to 9th. That's Wednesday to Friday of next week. Donegal County Council is advising motorists lane closures will be in operation. They should allow extra time for journeys. And Sinn Féin believes that Irish unity is getting closer. It's reacting to a new YouGov poll showing 43% of British people wouldn't be bothered if Northern Ireland left the UK. 40% want Northern Ireland to remain part of the UK. 34% believe it should join the Republic. South Donegal Deputy Martin Kenny says Irish unity isn't all that far away.
There's very little information or history taught in England around any of that. But at the same time, I think the poll reflects, the general trend that we see everywhere, that Irish unity is a happening thing. It's something that's moving, and we're getting closer to that every day. And while this poll is interesting, of course, the people of Britain will have no say in the matter.
Weather forecast largely sunny today. Some cloud building at times in light easterly or variable breezes. Top temperatures 19 to 22 degrees Celsius. Tonight dry with mostly clear skies. Some localised fog will develop. Lowest overnight temperatures 5 to 10. Tomorrow again mild and dry with plenty of sunshine. Some cloud as well with highest temperatures of 19 to 23 degrees Celsius. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with news again at 11 o'clock. Until then, from the news team, have a very good morning.
The obituary notices for this Friday morning, June the 2nd. The death has taken place of Adele Devine, Tober, Ballindrate and formerly of Church Minster, Ballindrate, Lifford, reposing at her parents' home, Church Minster, Ballindrate. Fiona leaving her parents' home tomorrow morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Castlefin at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family time please from 11 o'clock tonight. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has occurred of Hugh Waters, 18 Garton Avenue, Letterkenny. Hugh's remains will repose at his home today from 12 noon until 9 o'clock with rosary at 9 o'clock. Fiona from there tomorrow morning going to St Eunan's Cathedral for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock with burial afterwards in Cornwall Cemetery. Family flowers only, donations if wished to the Donegal Hospice, care of Pascal Blake, Funeral Director. Family time on the morning of the funeral please. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. And the death has occurred of Leanne Marie Stapleton in Greensboro, North Carolina, USA, formerly Kilclooney, Portneuf, County Donegal. Her remains will repose at her family home in Kilclooney today from 2 o'clock until 9 o'clock. Fiona from there tomorrow morning at 10:30 to St Connell's Church, Kilclooney for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass with burial afterwards in the Old Abbey Cemetery, Donegal Town. Family flowers only please, donations in lieu of desire to the Kevin Bell Repatriation Fund, care of any family member. Leanne's funeral mass can be viewed live on Chauvelin's Funeral Home Facebook page. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
The National End of Life Survey is underway. If you registered the death of someone who died between September and December 2022, you may get a survey pack in the post. The questions ask about the care provided in the last months and days of your loved one's life. Taking part is voluntary, and we'll use the findings to help improve end-of-life care in the future. For more information, please visit yourexperience.ie. From the HSC, HIQA and the Department of Health.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
And thank you very much once again to two debutantes, actually. Kathy Donaghy, author and journalist. It was great to have Kathy on. Declan Meehan is a regular, of course, community campaigner. But the other debutant was Joe Sweeney, who's the Donegal chair of the Irish Farmers Association. So we appreciate all three, particularly, as I say, the debutantes in accepting our invite to come on and discuss the big stories. Okay. And lots of you texting in as well. Really, thanks so so much for it. It never ceases to amaze me or make me feel glad to be on the programme that so many of you take part in it. So let's get to some of those comments here. Too many people coming in getting free accommodation doesn't help looking for their free house. There's a big difference between booking into an Airbnb for a few days holiday with all your supplies in the car and spending several months or years in an isolated cottage in Donegal with no job, no income and no public transport. Deputy Pringle represents an area where there are lots of Airbnbs. He should be careful about his public utterances. It could be costly at election time. Interesting, actually, when you talk about the location of many of those properties, yeah, because I think it would be very useful, and I said this to Caroline off air the other day, that you really need to audit them, and I think I actually said it on air, you'd need to audit them to see how many of them, because you throw out a figure there, people do, how many of them are actually suitable long-term pieces of accommodation with decent infrastructure that would sustain permanent living. The EPA report finds Ireland will miss its climate targets for 2030. Does anyone outside the Green Party care? I do, because they're going to tax us more into compliance. My God, a witch hunt on Phillip Schofield. Is she for real? Put the same situation into a male-female context and it would be a very different story. I was trying to figure that one out, how it would be approached if it were a female. Now, I'm not really quite sure if it would work worse or better for him. I can't imagine it or how the coverage might be. There's certain elements to that story. I think the fact that he knew him from a very young age. Now, he absolutely denies grooming the young person. There's a few elements of it that be a bit icky for me. But when we talk about witch hunt, though, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Kathy, like what is acceptable or unacceptable? Like if an individual is hounded to the point whereby, say, they take their own life, that's happened in the past, would you go, oh, maybe we went a little bit too far there? Or well, some people even think that's okay. Now, that's a terrible thing for me to say, but I'm like, it's to have the conversation. Like, when we talk about witch hunt, is like, when do you get enough from someone for something they've done? And the witch hunt would suggest that you grind them to the point of no longer existing, effectively. So I think that's really, how far can you or should you go with that? How can the woman on the panel say it's a witch hunt? Phillip Schofield. He lied and conned everyone for years and admitted he lied himself. Indeed. It's interesting when you look at the age gap of people. Many big stars married much younger people. Elvis and Priscilla, Celine Dion and her husband. Yeah, well, Elvis... Priscilla was 14, was it? There are many others as well. Celine Dion and her husband, not really quite familiar with that. Again, I would have a particular difficulty with it if you knew the person when they were a child, if you saw them mature into an adult and still went out with them. But that's just me. Greg, you discuss this topic every other day, but it's all falling on deaf ears in Dublin. The government don't give a damn about the people, especially the people of Donegal. RTDs come on your show and say this and say that, but nothing ever comes of it. It's a total and utter disaster, and the government sending back millions of unused money. You should never see the likes of this in any part of the world. It's high time for a revelation or a revolution in this country. It's gone beyond time. We need to consider food security. Will our beef be imported from Central America? Rainforests, asks Andrea. Yeah, much of it, maybe Poland, other countries. I just wonder, is that, that we aren't a producer, we're a consumer? Is that the plan? I don't know. Hi, Greg. The quicker the Irish people wake up to this nonsense government and get them whipped out, the better. It's coming to a stage in Ireland. You'd need 4 wages coming into the house every week to keep going. Good morning, Greg. I'll say it again. Is what we produce in emissions, which is nothing, 009. These people have seriously lost their minds, and the farmers know it, yet some are going along with it because it's basically free money for them. I do not want my tax money going to farmers to cull cows. Most of these cows wouldn't be worth half what they would be rewarded with. Change is coming because, like your panel, farmers sit on their hands and take it. Another, has any study been done to ascertain how much carbon could be removed from the atmosphere by the transport industry? By having an effective transnational railway system, it would seem like a no-brainer. How many buses leave Letterkenny every day for Dublin? Probably 10 or more. A train would eliminate the need for many of these journeys. Yeah, indeed. But for some reason, you would love to see the Green Party go, hold on a second, there's a massive gap in the northwest, let's provide a train. I don't have the figures to hand, but the short-haul flights, aircraft flights, for an example, actually contribute not a great deal to carbon emissions. Long haul flights certainly, but there's other areas of society that are far more damaging. But also, I was interested to learn during the week. Did you know that pig fat is in huge demand as a supplement to air fuel? That they're less toxic fuel. They need dead animals to create it, and that's going to potentially cause a shortage on that product. All right, and we're not talking about your bacon and sausages here, but I didn't know that air fuel, the less toxic stuff, contains animals. Did you know that? I must get the article and read it. I was flabbergasted by it. Nothing should really surprise us at this stage, should it? But anyway, be that as it may, I was like, what? They're using pigs? They're using pigs in aircraft fuel. Just curious, has anyone lost a bird of prey? At 8:50 a.m. today, I saw a bird of prey flying in a northeasterly to southwesterly direction over the Carragart to Downings Road. There was a strap with a bobble hanging from its legs. Now, clearly that's someone's bird. I'm trying to think what kind of... Is there any sanctuaries up there or anything? But anyway, maybe it was going out for a fly, but it shouldn't still have its dangly bit, should it? So a person saw, I presume it was a big bird, was it? Anyway, it was a bird of prey flying this morning over Carragart to Downings. There was a strap with a bobble hanging from its legs. That's the mystery. I want to get to the bottom of that. 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or call 07491 25,000. Lots of text still coming and talking about, when we're talking about housing, and a lot of the conversation about government or the civil service or whomever's responsible, and still lots of people, and I understand it, I'm not criticising it, I'm just highlighting it, and I'll get to some of the comments as we move on, still blaming migrants, right? But it's it's not the government. It's not the government, it's the migrants, which I find really quite interesting. Okay, we're going to take a break now for the bingo numbers. Stay right where you are, because Seamus Gunn's coming up. So if you have any questions for Seamus, may I suggest you get them into us ASAP, and we'll try and get as many answered as is possible.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Friday the 2nd of June. You're playing on the yellow sheet. The reference number is S10. It's game number 22. The numbers are 8, 67, 32, 43, 33, 36, 13, 78, 25, and finally 2. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
New multi-million euro cattle tagging scheme launched. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
We reveal how farmers will be incentivised to DNA tag animals. Find out how many farmers applied for the new Suppler scheme in your county. Fears grow that re-wetting plans will devalue farmland. Department moves and hedgerow removal rules. As summer silage sizzles, we examine rising diesel prices. And Ireland leads the way in sustainable farming. Read our exclusive interview with the EU Commissioner for Agriculture.
All in this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
Mick Flavin, 50 years in country music show at the Mount Derrigal Hotel Letterkenny on Monday the 12th of June with special guests Philomena Begley, Ray Lynham, Declan Ernie, Shuni Crampsey and Patsy Kavanagh. Tickets now on sale from the Mount Derrigal Hotel on 074 9122 700.
Get ready for an epic summer with Irwin's Expert Electrical, Letterkenny and Buncrana. Everything you need to make the most of our Irish summers. From the highly sought after Ninja barbecues to outdoor speakers, Dyson fans, big screen TVs, Bluetooth speakers and small appliances. We've got you covered. Irwin Expert Electrical, Letterkenny and Buncrana.
Okay, you're welcome back to this Friday's 9 till noon show, 18 minutes past 9. It's the 2nd of June, and we welcome onto the programme Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin, Gunn and Co, Letterkenny and Ramelton. Good morning to you, Seamus.
Morning, Greg. How are you?
Great, and it's great to have you back on the programme again. Before we get to some questions here, we have a ton of them. I was reading that influencers in France are facing the threat of prison sentences or major fines under new legislation adopted by Parliament aimed at cracking down on undeclared advertising and fraud. Touted as an effort to ensure online personalities face the same advertising rules as traditional media, the bill has made its way through Parliament with cross-party support since March, culminating with a vote by the Senate on Thursday. So it's going to be much more clear, I'd imagine, in France going forward as to, what is an opinion or what's real and what is trying to influence and coerce the public, often for payment.
Yeah. No, I just caught my eye as being an interesting development in Europe in relation to this whole area of influencers, social media, and personalities that are earning now quite lucrative livings out of it. If, for example, in France alone, they're talking about 150,000 influencers, and some might have very modest type of followers, but then some could have subscribers of millions. And obviously, that is a source of good revenue for them. And now in France, they're sort of saying, well, let's see, is this on the same playing pitch as the other media platforms, your TVs, radio, broadcasting, etc. And the competition side of it, the revenue side of it, the undeclared advertising is which they're really clamping down on now. There's an allegation that this is widespread. What I thought was quite interesting is if you run the parallel when we bring it home, how are we doing in this area in Ireland? This, I think, is setting a new standard in the European scene. I think they'll have a bit of a difficulty, strikes me, if a lot of these influencers are not in France, how they're going to actually access them with a view to enforcement and to policing this, like the type of fines that they're talking about, up 300,000 or thereabouts, 2 years imprisonment. It's fairly heavy. It's very heavy penalties. But if the influencers are not within that jurisdiction, and obviously the power of social media now, and that's an easy get around. Well, then how far will the tentacles spread in order to enforce it? But I think they're going the right way about it. You're probably going to have to see more of a European consensus and other countries coming on board and doing something similar to get everybody on, if you pardon the pun, the same platform for this going forward. Yeah. But it does need looking at, because they have a lot of power. And even in this country alone, there was a report there I think it was the beginning of the year, or maybe the back end of last year, where some 48 influencers were paid something around 300k by Bord Fáilte. So it is big money, and there are obviously people making money out of it, and we're self-regulated here under the Advertising Board, and we're governed by supposedly the Consumer Protection Act, and that goes back to 2007, and that people might say is a little bit outdated. Are policing this at the moment. Now,
I don't mind people getting paid by the council, for an example, as part of a Love Donegal campaign to sort of speak to their to their masses. Although some of the figures and stats are very heavily massaged, but anyway, be that as it may. And I don't really mind, Seamus, if you went on your Instagram and started, supping a can of Fanta and going, ooh, this Fanta is delicious, look how young it makes me look, right? But I'm delighted to see them tightening rules on things like cosmetic surgery, tobacco, Bitcoin, sports and lottery. Do you know what I mean? I'd love to see us crack down a bit more on that here as well, because they're not looking to influence you or me. It is younger, more impressionable people. Yeah. And I don't mind the product placement as much, but this type of stuff, I'm glad to see they're actually prohibiting the promotion of that, because that would be easier to police, Seamus.
Well, yeah, it's a fair point. It is a fair point. And they are identifying lines that they cannot actually air at all, which I would concur in that, and certainly agree that's a good way to move forward. It is positive. But when you just in passing mention the Fanta, the point about the Fanta is this: that if that comes to pass, and by the way, I just don't run an Instagram account at the minute, but anyway, but if that did come to pass, and I was lucky enough to be in that position, I would have to be fair to everybody, have to make it obvious that this is an advertisement for Fanta. And that is where they're falling foul. In this country, even alone, the last the commission, the Competition Commission, done some research on this, and this is fairly fresh. But they found that up 48% of these advertisements were not properly labelled at all. So even though I'm getting a little bit from Fanta for doing the ad, if I'm not promoting that and letting people know, by the way, not I don't have to say that, but this is an ad, or I'm in partnership with Fanta. Fanta are promoting this. I'm getting paid for it, by the way, so that you know I'm getting paid for it. That's where I have the difficulty here. Yeah. And I think that is very, very grey. And that's where this area can certainly be tightened up on, because there's very little, like if you're up to 50% of it, they found it's not properly labelled at all. Well, that's in my mind anyway, just in my opinion, that is misleading.
Yeah, I agree.
Certainly could be. Could be much sharper, and that's where I think the French are sort of looking into this with a view to clamping down on it. I certainly love to see people making a living, and once they make their returns on it, etc., etc. But people have to know the purpose of the influence and what they're actually selling.
Yeah, and as I say, I've no sour grapes, but we are very heavily restricted in on this platform as to what you can talk about. And like, I can't bring someone in here, for example, who talks to the dead or something like that. There, do you know what I mean? Or offers cures or things like that. That's quite specific. But there are different areas whereby we're very heavy regulated. All right, Seamus, stay right where you are if you don't mind, because we've loads of listeners' questions, and I want to be able to run through those and not have to interrupt them with this break, which we're going to take.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
At Permanent TSB, we know the value of being part of a community, helping local customers and businesses with all of their banking needs. That's why we're opening 25 new branches in towns across Ireland, and our team is looking forward to meeting you. Call in to our new branch at Ardaravan Square, Buncrana. We're Permanent TSB, and we're ready to welcome you today. Permanent TSB PLC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring biggest ever sale. 10 million euros worth of stock in store and ready to take home. All tiles, wood flooring, outdoor tiles and bathware. Everything is slashed in price. Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Ireland's biggest range, best prices and in store to take home today. Sale now on.
The Cope Dunlow's June Bank Holiday Sale is now on. Buy 2 11-litre white Dulux Weather Shield for just €100. Buy 2 10-litre white Santex for just €70. Buy 2 10-litre colour Dulux Weather Shield for just €130. Shop in store or online at thecope.ie.
Holiday sunshine. Fly from Derry to Majorca this July or August with Atlantic Travel in Letterkenny. Save up to 20% with rates not available elsewhere. Also exclusive discounts for parking. Call Atlantic Travel Letterkenny on 91 26193 or visit atlantictravel.ie.
Shop LK at Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, Main Street, Letterkenny. New, fresh colours in women's sportswear from Nike and Under Armour. Get that new look with some bright colours. Quarter zips with t-shirts and fitness bottoms. Match it up with some new arrivals in our footwear for women. Brooks, Hoka, and On Running gives you a unique comfort sensation. View our new arrivals. Click on bmcsports.ie for your free delivery.
We're in conversation with Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin, Gunn and Company in Letterkenny and Ramelton and online. And Seamus, this question comes in sometimes when you're on, often when you're not as well, and it's about neighbours' animals. I'll read the text to you as it was sent in to us. Any idea what I can do about neighbours' dogs that bark all day long, non-stop? One neighbour now has 4 dogs. They also wander about into everyone's gardens. We live in a rural area. I don't know how to go about saying it to them, as I don't want to fall out, but it's beyond a joke at this stage. So not only are the dogs noisy and numerous, but they're also wandering around the neighbourhood as well. What can be done in that situation?
It is very difficult and not uncommon. And I fully appreciate the dilemma. To raise it with the neighbour that can fall out, very hard to make up. And they're both going to be there hopefully for many years to come. But sometimes that's the only way of dealing with these issues. If you want to go another route, then you're talking about bringing in a third party. You could consider getting legal representation. Would I recommend that? I don't think it's necessary at this stage. But certainly where you have mentioned about dogs coming onto other people's property, and barking, etc., that could constitute a nuisance. Certainly looks, on the face of it, it could be certainly an allegation of trespass. So those are, particularly there's two legal avenues there that you could bring up and go along and get some advice on and take it down a route which would probably polarise the parties forevermore, amen. And so just keep that in mind. There has been, and under the auspices of the various different departments which are responsible, include local authorities, the Department of Agriculture, etc., etc. There is a proposal to have a number of more dog wardens appointed in the various different county councils, from the various different county councils and throughout the country in general. Now, that has not yet come to pass, but it is essential, in my opinion, absolutely essential. And when there is enough personnel to police it, well, then at least you will have a proper protocol with the complaint, and an intermediary or a third party may be able to go along and talk to the neighbour and see what can be done about this. But rest assured, there is an obligation on any owner of a dog to keep them and maintain them within their own property. Yeah. And if they are straying onto other people's property and doing damage, well then the penny will drop and the individual will be held, or can be held, to account. And that can be expensive, and it can go down the legal route.
Yeah,
no
but I mean, as
that.
you say,
introduce maybe the dog warden approach might be the way to go as a sort of a third party intermediary. But again, it will be difficult, and there's no nice way of doing it. And the direct approach, it might be the first.
Well, you see, they're trying.
The most satisfactory.
Yeah, they're trying to avoid that, and we do generally in life try and avoid confrontation, but it is a rural area here, so if they do go down the legal route, the person who owns the dog is going to have a very fair idea who brought this up, and there may end up being a confrontation down the line anyway. So perhaps that they're going to have that first difficult conversation. Now, I mean, if there's a concern about the welfare of the animals, if they're barking all day, I presume they could make a call to the ISPCA, but that would obviously, you wouldn't want to do that mischievously. If you had a concern about the welfare of the animals, that could be an option.
Well, again, it's the introduction, but you've probably already answered this point yourself, in that they will know immediately that this has come from the next door neighbour, and I mean, it'll be easy enough to surmise that or to conclude that. So it's the same result. Sometimes, unfortunately, you can't avoid some type of confrontation. Now, it may be a situation where they would like to have a third party that could go along and have a sort of friendly chat, and to divorce it slightly and say, well, look, we don't want to fall out about this, but this is the issue arising, and can we do something about it? And try that somewhat softly in the first instance. But if it does not work, and it is interfering with their peaceful enjoyment of their home, in that situation they have their rights, and that's what the law is there for. And if one's dog is straying onto another's property, well, that just cannot continue.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, confrontation sometimes cannot be avoided, but they can be dealt with in a mature manner, that the parties should not have to end up falling out about it. If it goes down the legal route and you end up in maybe a district court of that, and you're seeking orders and maybe even seeking damages, well, then that could sour relations forevermore.
Irreparably indeed. A farmer planted around 2 acres of land on our road, and now our road is a danger with roaming deer every night. Now, I'm not sure there's anything legally can be done about that. It's unfortunate, but
I think there's certain period during the year where there are culls of the national deer herd, I can't say I'm an authority on it, but you have to check out the different Wildlife Act and the appropriate in their own setting. People can be a complete hazard, and there has been proposals to bring in more stricter type of legislation in relation to them, and where they are actually on the roadside and causing, in some cases, very serious accidents. But the difficulty is, again, in enforcement. At the moment, there is a national strategy for culling. That seems to me to be about the height of it. That can and should be taken a lot further. They haven't indicated whether the farmer actually owns these deer or what the situation is with them. But they have, as we all probably know, and especially in this lovely county, they have a tendency to roam for hundreds of miles.
Yeah. A family member owes this caller money. They sent a solicitor's letter 4 months ago after 7 years chasing it but since he's not been able to get it back, his brother replied to the letter stating he wasn't going to pay the money back. The money was used for property on a farm. So what can this other brother do about it? So sorry. One brother lent another brother money 7 years ago. They chased them up with a solicitor's letter 4 months ago. The money was used to purchase property on a farm. Now the brother who received the money says in a letter that he's not going to pay that money back. Where can they go from there?
Yeah, well, it's a situation, obviously, that has already started on a legal route. So all I can do is advise in general terms in such matters. If it's a situation where it's a debt, if it was a loan and someone gives another party a loan, the first advice I would give is to get some form of acknowledgement of that and to work out what is the repayment schedule and the time scale for it, and also perhaps whether there's interest applicable to it, and to fine tune it somewhat, and that it's properly recorded, and therefore it can be followed up on. If you have a simple situation where one gives another some money and a period of time passes, and in this case, in debt cases, there is a period for the statute of limitations of 6 years. If you go beyond that and you have taken no steps and haven't secured a judgment within that period, then you could be met with a defence that the claim for the debt is statute barred. So you have to be always careful in relation to pursuing debt matters that you come within that period. So that's something that is worth flagging. But in relation to loans, it should be documented. And if you're getting no response, well, then you have to go to the next stage and take legal proceedings. And it'll be up to the other party then to decide how they want to meet those proceedings. And whoever's dealing with the matter for the caller should be able to advise them.
My driving licence allows me to drive on any public road. If I have a moped or a tractor licence, I'm not allowed to drive on a motorway. Under what statute is that prohibited? In other words, under what statute would I be prosecuted if I drove a tractor or a moped on a motorway?
Well, I think you're going to have to delve into the road traffic legislation. There are pieces of from the Road Traffic Act from 1961 up to the current day. I don't know how many different acts there are, but they are numerous in the extreme. You want to also, I think, check the position with regard to, they say, their licence as to whether, in fact, they have an actual, it's covered on their licence for driving. Now, and I'm assuming that they do have. And I think then maybe an inquiry with the local Gardaí, have they been stopped? Then you'll have to then consult your own legal advisor as to where you go with that if a summons should issue against you. Remember this, though, and I think it's always very pertinent. People sometimes think that just because an allegation is made, they accept it. If they wait and they see if there's summons, the legislation will be outlined and in detail in the actual prosecution summons that if they're ever served with, they will receive. And at that point, it's a matter for them to engage their lawyer to go into court, and it has to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. So although an allegation or a claim is made, it doesn't have to be accepted by the individual. They have their rights, the constitutional rights, to stand their ground and to defend any claim that's made against them.
Our 30-year-old house is affected by defective concrete. Under normal circumstances, it would be worth around €200,000. However, if and when it's rebuilt under the redress scheme, the valuation will go up substantially, bringing our only child into significant inheritance tax as we have other assets. Surely this isn't just.
It's an interesting question because the caller would seem to be getting the benefit of a new abode. Obviously, a serious upgrade if it's 30 years on, with all probably mod cons and a good BER rating, and naturally the value will have appreciated. So the knock-on effect is likely that if it brings it beyond the threshold, so is at the moment for a child or a son or daughter, direct lineal descendant is 335,000 or thereabouts for inheritance tax. If it's above that, after expenses are taken out, and the difference will be taxable at 33%. Now, they seem to be making the point that while they would prefer to have the new house on one hand, they prefer to have the old one for the tax reason, for the tax benefit, which...
But we're into the
it's a little bit of your cake and eat it.
Yes, I get you, but I think maybe the motivation for the question is, Seamus, and not contradicting you, is that this is another penalisation on their child through no fault of their own. In other words, they're saying, well, maybe in other words, yes, it's not their fault the house is falling down. So
I'm sorry, I can't agree.
You can't buy it, okay?
Greg? No, I can't buy that. I mean, they're getting an appreciated asset. The other was referenced at being 30 years old. They're now going to have hopefully a state-of-the-art modern home, maybe worth significantly more. And if it does attract some tax on that, well, so be it. That'll be my view. I don't think you can have it every way.
Right, 2 questions left I think I have time for. If I leave a site to my niece or nephew in my will, what implications does that have on them in terms of tax?
Yeah, well, a niece or nephew in relation to capital acquisitions tax, and that's the bracket that you're under, and that's the same for a gift or an inheritance. So it depends then on the value of the site. At the moment, that threshold is set at €32,500 in valuation. So if the value of the site exceeds that, then they would be taxed at the rate of 33% on the amount above it, between that and the valuation. So, for example, as you said, if the site was valued at 50,000, well, then there would be seen to be a differential of probably 17.5, and that 17.5, maybe some expenses that will be taxed at 33%. So that would be the tax implication there. The first 32.5 will be tax-free. If the site is worth less than 32.5, there's no issue on it at all, and there wouldn't be a tax liability arising on it. And the same would apply if the uncle or aunt wants to gift the nephew or the niece the site. It'll be the same threshold, because it's the same tax bracket, and it's capital taxation.
All right, and Greg, please ask Seamus. I was selling a house. I got a bill in for €8,000 from my solicitor for the work that they did, paperwork they describe it as. But the sale has fallen through. Do I still have to pay the solicitor the €8,000? What's the story?
Well, it's entirely a matter between yourself and the party providing the service, and the account, I'm sure, is fully documented. The fact that the sale has fallen through on the face of it is probably no fault of either party. If it's a third party who was buying has pulled out, so be it. Maybe there was title matters to be updated in order to get the property marketable from the purpose of selling it and putting it on the open market, and hence there's an account payable. It's an entirely contract position between the provider of the service and the caller. But if you're saying that just because the sale, if the account was only conditional upon a sale, well, that's different, because that in the sale did not materialise, and therefore the account wouldn't be payable until a sale would. But if the account is not in any way conditional, well, and as I would believe it's unlikely to be, well, then I would see it as still, if the account is due and the work is done,
Do people kind of find very finely
that the bill would still have to be paid?
Do people very finely have a sort of interesting view towards solicitors? Like, you would never get a call in saying that, you know, I had an old car at the house and I paid a mechanic to put a new engine in, and then I put it on done deal, and the person came to look at it and then didn't decide to buy it. Do I still have to pay the mechanic who put the engine in? You would never see that question. But solicitors, the legal profession today, is it because people view them sort of as part of the whole process or part of the same, like a bank or something, rather than a third party?
Yeah, it's a fair comment. I put it down to the slings and arrows of this profession, really. People maybe in a situation where there's work to be done in order to get, like, for example, if you were selling a property that was coming through an estate, just giving an example off the top, well, there'd be a lot of work to be done regarding the administration of the estate before the property would be passed on to the individual who was then going to sell it. And that would certainly incur costs, and those costs would then be payable. Now, the individual might say, but I was left that property, I shouldn't have to pay any cost. But in order to get it to that stage where they can sell it and get a significant benefit out of it, there are costs going to be incurred.
Yeah, but Seamus,
those have to be paid to the solicitor.
But I think a lot of people see solicitors as a hurdle to overcome rather than a third party to protect their interests. Do you know what I mean? I think it's almost that there must be that kind of an attitude out there.
Well, I don't know. I think that the legal profession is renowned for doing an awful lot of pro bono work. I think most practices do. And there's a lot of man hours put in right across the board and right across this country by solicitors doing that type of work, for which there's never a euro raised. And I'm quite familiar with it.
Okay, Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn. We'll do a whip around for you. Seamus Gunn of McLaughlin Gunn and Company, Letterkenny and Ramelton, and also online, Seamus?
I hope so, Greg. Yeah, DonegalSolicitors.ie, or just keep it country, gun.ie.
Have a lovely weekend, Seamus. Take care of yourself. Okay, back with more after the break.
Tesco Club Card gives you the power to lower prices for an amazing bank holiday weekend. Like Tesco Farpit Tomahawk beefsteak was €28.35, now €18.99 per kilo. Coca-Cola cans 20-pack was €18, now €10. And for the adults, Birra Moretti 330ml 12-pack was €22, now €14.50. Lower the cost of your shop with your Tesco Club Card or app. The power to lower prices. Tesco. Every little helps. Product subject to availability. Excludes Express stores. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
New multi-million-euro cattle tagging scheme launched. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
We reveal how farmers will be incentivised to DNA tag animals. Find out how many farmers applied for the new suckler scheme in your county. Fears grow that re-wetting plans will devalue farmland. Department moves and hedgerow removal rules. As summer silage sizzles, we examine rising diesel prices. And Ireland leads the way in sustainable farming. Read our exclusive interview with the EU Commissioner for Agriculture.
All in this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
All stock reduced at Evolve Clothing Letterkenny Retail Park and online at evolveclothing.com. Bank holiday sale now on. Everything reduced at Evolve Clothing. Don't miss it.
Is your home or motor insurance up for renewal? Now is the time to check if your policy still offers you the right cover and the right fit at the right price. To be sure you're getting the best deal, take this opportunity to shop around. It's easier than you think. Simply contact your insurer or broker today. Remember, don't just renew, review. For more information, visit understandinginsurance.ie. Brought to you by Insurance Ireland.
I've just had the Eclipse Cinemas experience. Wow, they truly have taken a night at the movies to a whole new level. Amazing recliner chairs, director's lounge VIP rooms, pizza and hot food served to your seat. Have a glass of wine and enjoy the film on the big screen. Try it for yourself at Eclipse Cinemas Bundoran and Lifford Strabane, where the stars shine brighter. By the way, the pizzas are amazing. You can book your seat anytime at eclipsecinemas.ie.
Okay, what are you doing for the weekend? Micheal and Phillip is coming in to join us for That's Entertainment. We're going to be talking about all things to keep us occupied, but that could involve you've got some nice plans. So if you're lucky enough to be out and about and have something to do for the long weekend, tell us what you're getting up to. Share the love. Say hello to someone. We welcome your requests and dedications as well. So just want you interacting and involved in that part of the programme as much as you always are. But as I say, it's not just confined to what's on the square screen. It's not square anymore, but you know what I mean. It's just whatever you're doing. Spread the love. What are you excited about? Maybe you've got grandkids landing that you haven't seen for ages. Share the love. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to that number, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. Can anyone explain to me why people who apply for planning retention and get it granted and then other cases not? Why is there not one rule for all? It appears the decision depends on who you are. Well, I presume... and I can't, and I'm not trying to, in other words, in any way say that what you feel is not what you feel or what you say, but presumably retention will be based on whether what you're looking to retain complies with planning regulations. Phillip Schofield has been exposed as a not a very nice person. He thought he owned that This Morning Show and was untouchable. But now he's gone, and he's not only brought down himself, but he's getting a good kicking while he's down, like what was done to Caroline Frack. When will the Green Party propose to fund a connection between the two railways in Donegal from Rafo to Fintown? Maybe it might stop at Letterkenny or Ballybofey on the way. And another, I thought that local food production within our own country was more environmentally friendly for the world as a whole, rather than destroying our rainforests and shipping loads across the world, creating more pollution. Surely Ireland by itself cannot keep the whole world green. No, but we can do our bit, and that's what every country is expected to do. But the contradictions and hypocrisies are abound, and I think that's what's hindering the transition. Brendan Devaney is ambassador with Plan.ie, and secondly, secondary to that in this instance, he's presenter of the DL debate. But we're not talking about sport. We're not going to talk about GA. I might ask him. I don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, we're starting our focus on his ambassadorship with Plan.ie, because you've sprinkled the crumbs over the last while, Brendan, about you heading to Toga in Africa, but it's full steam ahead now. You're heading away sometime in the not too distant future. So just for those who don't listen on a Friday, or don't listen on a Monday but tend to listen on a Friday, talk to us about the work of Plan and your involvement with them.
Yeah, the ambassador line sounds kind of important, Greg. I don't know, it doesn't sit that well. I just try and help out as much as I can, but listen, I've been doing that bit of work for them, Greg, now for about 4 or 5 years, just helping sponsor kids. I sponsor kids myself, and I tried things with them like Fast a Day, sponsor a child, and looking at wee ways to save the €22 in a month, because I don't really like asking people for money, because if you're like me and like most people, at the end of the month the wages are gone. So I was looking at wee ways to, me and wee lads would wash the cars, for example, here, maybe save €14, get the awards at 22. So just make wee small sacrifices to sponsor a child. You get packs back, and you see them grow up. Then you make sure that their safety, they've got food to eat, education, keeping wee girls out of early childhood marriage, the horrors of FGM and that, and all those types of things. They go into communities as well, Greg. So they don't just try and take a child and make sure they're okay. They go into the whole community, and then everybody sponsors the children and that. So the charity ball that yourself came along to there previous, we sponsored 21 kids on that night as well. So that's kind of led into this, Greg.
And before we get to this, talk a little bit more about, so like the children you sponsored and for how long you've been sponsoring them, do they give you updates on how they are, their well-being, their education? So in other words, you quite literally see in that process, and as you say, you make you curtail certain things to afford this, right? So and I've seen you do it on social media where you'll fast for the day, or if you mentioned you in the family washing cars, just try and save a few quid, but you consistently get to see how their life is unfolding. So in a way then, do you form some sort of an emotional attachment because you're invested in this other child on the other end of the earth, and you're seeing what your relatively small but important contribution is making?
Yeah, and just like that, Greg, I know, listen, we see it all the time, people are getting it tough in it, but compared to their life, that's toughness on another level. So if we can help out a small bit, I have the pictures up in the wee office upstairs, Greg, and I would show them to the wee boys as we're growing up. And when we're washing the car, I tell them why we're doing it, trying to give them some semblance of, you know, the amount of things we have around us that is this just and seem normal and ordinary for us. Things that bloody running water and sanitation things we just think are normal. For a lot of people in the world, they aren't. I mean, there's 8 million people in Togo I'm going out to. You know, half of them are below the poverty line, you know, still predominantly agriculture out there and that. So it's a really tough place to be. But for years there, like a lot of people in Ireland, I mean, I was some of the best people in the world and contributing, obviously, and helping, you know, per head around the world and that. So I was given to different charities, and of course they're all doing great work, Greg, but I didn't really know the kind of outcome. Whereas I know now, say with the 3 kids I sponsor and the 21 kids from that night, their information all comes back to me. So I've given them out to my friends, my wee nieces and nephews, and that they all write to the kids now. All the correspondence goes back to me. So just like you're saying, like, I'm constantly getting letters of wee updates, so you get pictures and that. So you can now and then send them something like be colouring books and pens, something simple. But
it can be personal. But you know what? And you mentioned a really great thing. What a great life education tool for as a parent. You know, and because it's not sort of shocking them into the awful realities of the world. You do it in such a way as they have a empathy for other children that aren't perhaps as lucky as they are, but they also then have an appreciation of what they have around them. And I think, you know, that's a really important thing as part of nurturing and rearing children that sometimes we can be guilty of forgetting.
Yeah. Yeah, if you listen, the way world's going, things is getting easier and easier. You know, and listen, don't get me wrong. There's another side to that in terms of like devices and media and all that, which is putting more pressure on kids. But in terms of those simple wee things in life, a lot of them are laid out for the kids. Education, for example, is one of the big ones. I mean, if you look at wee girls around the world, they are most less likely to be educated than the wee boys. And they're they're in danger of things like early childhood marriage and that. So Plan actually do target little girls more because they're more at danger in many ways. So being able to relay that back to your wee boys as they're growing up, of course, they're not going to take that much heat of it, but it's a nice thing in the background.
No, it's there though. It's take
them literally going from maybe about say 3 to 4 years old right up into their 16, 17.
Right, so we actually only have about 3 minutes left. So talk to us about the actual trip to Toga. We're going to be able to track you. Are you looking for people maybe to support you in that work? So just tell us what's happening and where the public interaction is there or information for them.
Yeah, well, thanks to Carol Wickham from Plans coming, Greg, because she sorted everything out. I didn't realise there was much stuff to do, visas and forms and oh my God. But anyway, she's put all that together. Bradis O'Donnell, who does a lot of streaming and video work, you know Bradis, he's coming with us to document the trip. So the trip only come about really, Greg, because of the generosity of Kieran Brogan, his sister Sarah's and Terry McNuffin, the Mount Derrigal Hotel, and my friend Kieran Keaveney in New York, because obviously he owns a fifth in Mad Bar out there. Obviously, Greg, I don't want to take anything away from the charity. I'm here to help the charity. So when this all came up, we needed some backers, and fair play to the guys. They stepped in, phenomenal boys to have in your corner. So they've made the whole trip happen, Greg. So we're going to document it. I'm going out to meet some of the kids that we sponsor. And Bradis is going to video the whole trip and that, and she will have some content there, and maybe we could share it when we come back. We've been talking to a few people, you know, between media and radio and TV, and you know, obviously charity ball at the end of the year now. So it'd be nice to have footage. And listen, the Plan people tell you, Greg, that this will change your life. It's wild hard to envisage it as opposed to you're actually out there on the ground. So I'm not sure what exactly to expect, but listen, I'm excited.
I think it's going to be emotional, you know, because it's it is a direct connection between these people who you've become invested in their lives. So you get to see, you know what I mean. It's going to be a roller coaster, I think.
Yeah, Greg, I know, and I know. After I suppose last year, the tragedy in my life, my emotions are still very rocky because you know, they're up and down because life's so busy. I don't get to think that much. I'm trying not to take on board it, and I'm thinking when I see these wee ones, because Greg, for years, and this all came about, you know, you see these ads on TVs and different things. I can't like bypass them. There's just something like, and we're all different, and you know, it's just the way I am. I'm looking at that, thinking, how can I help out a wee bit? How can I do something? So this has been building in me for years. So I suppose you're going to see them in that. I'm not sure how that's going to be for me. You know, this image of it being, you know, very, very humbling, nice thing to do. But I'm just, I'm wondering about keeping the emotions in check, all right? But listen, I'm looking forward to it, Greg. As I say, it should be a good experience. And even from the last post that I did on social media there, I got 3 people contacting me direct from friends of mine saying, give me the number, I'm going to sign up. So the end game here, Greg, is to create awareness for plan, for more people to sign up, and one wee person at a time, we can help out people who need it, you know.
All right, brilliant stuff. Brendan, we'll chat to you before you head off, but thanks for the update. Brendan Devaney there. And you can go to plan.ie and sponsor a child if you wish as well.
She cuts in for the wing. Oh, that's superb. She's through and goal! Yes! She scored a world-class win.
Sarah?
Huh? Oh.
Cadbury Buttons or Dairy Milk?
Oh, gosh, sorry. Don't dream about a world-class win. Enter to win one. Meet a world-class footballer and win an epic holiday worth 8k. Only with Cadbury. T's and C's apply. Visit worldclass.cadburyfc.com.
Time is ticking on the sizzling summer sale at Easy Living Furniture. With absolutely everything reduced, now is the time to spruce up your space with stylish furniture and unbeatable savings. From cozy sofas to elegant dining sets, we have the perfect pieces to transform your home. But hurry, this sizzling sale ends this Sunday. Don't miss out on the hottest prices of the season. Visit Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Why leave all the magic moments or great scenes you've captured on your phone sitting there or in the cloud when you can have them printed at McGee's Chemist? Using the McGee's app or one of the in-store kiosks, you can upload your photos from your phone, Google Photos, Facebook or Instagram and have them printed instantly within an hour or in by 10 and ready by 5. See mcgees.ie for more details. Hold your memories in your hand with McGee's Chemist, Letterkenny.
Evolve's biggest bank holiday sale now on. All stock reduced in-store at Letterkenny Retail Park and online at evolveclothing.com. Everything discounted.
Be prepared for training and match day with Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure with a variety of mouthguards, shorts, socks and boots from O'Neill's, ATAC and Adidas. Exclusive Michael Murphy GAA gloves are available in 4 different styles. You'll find everything your team needs to succeed on match day at michaelmurphysports.ie. Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock. It's time to get a news update, and it's good morning once again to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Craig. Good morning. Donegal County Council has been warned that it must take the tenant in situ scheme seriously, otherwise people will end up homeless. In a bid to limit damage caused by the eviction ban, government promoted the initiative which would allow the housing agency buy rental properties from private landlords. Councillor Noel Jordan says the processing of the scheme by the local authority is too slow, all the while termination notice dates are fast approaching for many. 239 private houses, meanwhile, were acquired by Donegal County Council between 2016 and 2021. It's led to concerns that there is a lack of appetite from the local authority to engage in the process. Councillor Terry Crossan says a large number of property owners have expressed interest in selling their home, but nothing has come to fruition. The Health Minister says he doesn't know how many staff have volunteered to work the June bank holiday weekend. CEO of the HSC, Bernard Gloucester, wrote to staff in recent weeks pleading with them to volunteer to work this weekend. The Chief Officer of HSC Community Healthcare in the North West yesterday said community staff will be available over the coming days to assist at Letterkenny University Hospital if required. The number of prescriptions for antidepressants for children has more than doubled in the last 10 years. Over 15,000 prescriptions have been issued for children in 2022. That compares to just over 6,500 in 2012. Sinn Féin says preparations need to be made for a poll on Irish unity in the next decade. It's responding to a new YouGov poll in the UK showing 34% of people there believe Northern Ireland should join the Republic. It also reveals 43% of them wouldn't be bothered if the North left the UK. And a primary school programme designed to educate children on the environmental and economic advantages of blanket bogs is to be rolled out in Donegal. Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Charlie McConlogue, has launched the programme developed by the Heritage Council as part of Life IP Wild Atlantic Nature. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Your COVID-19 booster vaccine clinic
It, brought to you by the HS.
If you're over 70 or have a weak immune system, check out the free walk-in COVID-19 spring booster vaccination clinics running for a limited time in Dunlow Vaccination Centre today from 10:30pm to 4:30pm. In Letterkenny Business Park today from 9:50am to 4pm, and tomorrow between 8:15am and 4:15pm. Or in Buncrana PC Centre today from 10:30am to 4:30pm. Your booster will top up your immunity against COVID-19 for the months ahead, protecting you from serious illness. Another booster will be offered in autumn to protect you over the winter months. Please remember to bring a photo ID that shows your date of birth. To check clinic times and for more information, visit hsc.ie/walk-in.
To get smart with your spending so you can do more with your money.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Not with OnPost Money Manager, the smart budgeting app that does the work for you. Securely link all your current accounts and credit cards and see all your spending in one place.
What if I'm running low on cash?
You get a heads up with spending and budget alerts.
Sounds expensive.
Not at all. It's free to use whoever you bank with.
Say no more. I'm going to download the app now.
Do more with your money, no matter who you bank with. Search OnPost Money Manager. OnPost is authorised by the Minister for Finance to provide payment services and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland in the provision of such services.
It's 4 minutes past 11 on this Friday, the 2nd of June, and it's time for That's Entertainment with our regular guests of Micheal Leddy. Good morning to you, Micheal. How are you getting on?
Good morning. Very well.
And Fionnuala Rabbit, who's fully embracing the blended working practices, joining us, I don't know where from, possibly home, I don't know. Hi, Fionnuala.
Hi. No, I'm down in sunny Galway.
How's the weather?
Oh, beautiful now, I have to say. It's actually really, really hot down here now.
How's the family? Everyone okay down there?
Dublin.
Are you going to hold that phone for an hour?
No, I'm trying to connect up to my mummy's Wi-Fi and it's not working.
My arm would be just absolutely hanging off me after a while. Okay, before we get into it, neither of you have started the last series of Succession yet? No?
No.
Right, okay. It's been spoilt for me. There's something happens midway through the last series and it was spoiled everywhere. I'm not sure if it you're familiar with it as well. Yeah. It's kind of a bit depressing, but maybe it's not a big enough spoiler to discourage one from watching it, Fionnuala. You're waiting for it all to air before you watch it, is that correct?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of do a big binge on it because everybody keeps talking about it, and I know even the ending has gotten some rave reviews from people that love it, but the internet has made it very difficult. It's the same way with this week was the last episode of Ted Lasso, and it was very, very hard to stay away from everything once it came out at like 12 o'clock midnight on Tuesday, because it was available then on Apple, and you just had to kind of like avoid the internet until you got a chance to sit down and watch it yourself. It's a pity people don't think about that. I know sometimes they give out that you spoiled something that's already 20 years old, but if it's not even 24 hours, people should at least have the decency to stay off for 24 hours.
I know. I still haven't forgiven Micheal for ruining episode 3, season 2 of Baywatch 2 or 3 weeks ago. I haven't watched it yet, you know. So we'll avoid...
No point in going back now.
That's the one where those kids went swimming near the pier.
Yes, I remember it. And people ran along the beach in Cossies. So did you finish Ted? I don't have a list from you, but I presume you finished Ted Lasso. You were one of its biggest fans, I think, because you've watched it. You know, you go back to it, and you know when you're looking for a bit of light entertainment. So,
I may be the saddest person that you know. Not only did I go back, I was
going to say we have a contender here, but go on.
I know. I'm glad I'm not sitting beside him. He'd totally be nudging me. I watched it 2 or 3 times, all of it. And even this time with the final series, it was out on a Wednesday, and my Wednesday treat to myself was that I would sit down and watch the previous episode again and then watch the new episode. So I've actually seen this series twice as well in that sense. I absolutely loved it. The ending was exactly what you expected to be. It was schmaltzy. It was, all feeling good, all that kind of stuff in it. A lot of things tied up nicely in a bow, which is exactly the way the kind of show would progress through. So I really loved it. I'd be interested to see what other people think, because it wasn't 100% where you thought it was going to, in your head where you might have thought stuff was going to land. But it did have a nice kind of a feeling, a nice sort of an end to it. And it definitely left itself open to the possibility of there being spin-offs. So that's one of the things that you see an awful lot of talk about. Will there be a spin-off from it? They'd always said that this was a three-season arc, but is it possible that there's another...
Could you see the spin-off being him in America in a different sport, or elements of the English side being remade? Or
I think it's elements of the cast. There's particular cast members and particular characters within it that, generated such strong feeling from the viewers.
Yeah.
That I think there's a potential there to actually do as a spin-off from it not with him at all, because he said that he's done with it. In fairness, they were right to end it on the 3, because this one wasn't as good as the previous ones. Now, whether that have to do with the fact that we already kind of knew the story, you sort of had the feel for it when you're in 3. Like, had they gone to 4, I think they would have destroyed the whole sentiment about the Ted Lasso series. But it was very, as I say, the first one was 15 out of 10. The second one was 12 out of 10. And this one was 10 out of 10.
That's a brilliant review. And Michael, you're going to have to excuse me, but I've so much to remember doing a show like this. And the entertainment stuff, I kind of can't focus as much on that. I don't remember. Have you watched Ted Lasso?
Oh, I'm a huge fan.
Yes, you are.
Huge fan.
Right.
No, I wouldn't expect you to remember that. God, no. You barely remember my name from week to week, so come on, I know you're under pressure. I know,
but that's because instinctively I want to call you a swear word. That's the problem.
That's it, yeah. Well, we do that off air. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ted Lasso. I really do think it's one of the best shows to come on in the last 5 to 10 years. I haven't seen this season yet. Nothing to do with Ted Lasso, more to do with the fact that at this time of year I watch less and less TV. So I will get round to it. Very much looking forward to it. I've successfully avoided all spoilers. I was quite nervous there when Fionnuala started chatting about it, because I've avoided all reviews and comments.
Fionnuala's very good now.
She's very good. In fairness, she is very good. But it is a brilliant show. I'm really enthused again now that I've heard Fionnuala's review. 10 out of 10 is not bad. It's not a bad review as these things go. But it's a wonderful show, and as we said before, it's great. It's sort of a non-cynical sort of look at, he's a very sincerely nice person.
Yeah, but it's that part of it that annoys me. That's the schmaltzy sort
unlike you, Greg, I don't hate people, so I don't mind.
I love people.
You just don't like that. Well, it's very sincerely done.
I get it, okay, but you have to see when people rave about a show, which many have, right?
Yes.
You go into it with your expectations
you do,
elevated.
Of course, that's only human.
Right? And it's the expectations that
gets in the way.
are not met.
Gets in the way,
rather than it's been a good show.
Of course, your expectations are high, and then that does raise the bar.
But I suppose it's a strong alternative to all the other stuff that's churned out nowadays between soap operas and films and everything else.
And the DNA of Scrubs is in there because, as I've said many times before, the person who did Scrubs is one of the people who shaped Ted Lasso. Scrubs was another show that was very sincerely nice and had characters and that were heartfeltly without being. I wouldn't say it was schmaltzy. I've seen schmaltz. I think it's just sincerely tender and heartwarming, and Ted having his own flaws makes him all the more human and believable.
Yeah, because I've been conditioned to sit in front of the TV at 8 o'clock between soap operas and what have you. I found myself watching Britain's Got Talent this week, some of it. I don't know if either of you saw it. I hope
Definitely not.
Because I hold both of you in too high a regard to put you through that. But firstly, I would say Britain doesn't have talent anymore because they're importing acts from all over the world.
Right.
They're scouting. It's clear they're scouting. And it's terrible. I found myself returning to watch it on consecutive nights because it was so bad to see could it plummet the depths any further. And it hasn't disappointed me on consecutive nights. Absolutely terrible.
Is it musical acts? Is it novelty acts? Is it comedy acts?
It's a lot of kids, a lot of singing, a lot of judges saying stuff that is completely irrelevant to what's going on. Terrible acts, and they're going, "Oh my God, that was amazing." It's a semi-final, so they're pressing buzzers, even though they don't really do anything, and then they won't vote. They're there to vote, and then they won't vote, and they leave it up to the public. It's really just bizarre. It's crap. It's terrible.
But is it getting the ratings?
I don't know. I would say it's tanking. But anyway, anyone out there watching that or have watched it, 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, or call us on 07491 25,000. Right. Okay. Let me see. We kind of started off with Fionnuala, I think, because of the Ted Lasso. The both of you went to see The Little Mermaid. Do you know what I might do is take a break, so I don't want them stacking up, and we'll come back and we'll dive into into the that's accidental. We'll dive into The Little Mermaid because both of you seen that.
You were planning that all morning. You were planning that.
I think Fionnuala can attest that she's just texted me the words "The Little Mermaid." Isn't that right, Fionnuala? I can be pretty honest on that.
I know, definitely.
Okay, back out. It's all going swimmingly. I'll be back with more after these.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Disney's The Lion King in Dublin. More to be seen than has ever been seen. Join Highland Radio on our trip on Thursday, 26th of October 2023 to see the award-winning Lion King the musical. Brought to you by Disney Theatrical Productions. Your trip includes luxury transfers, overnight stay at the 4-star City North Hotel Dublin on a bed and breakfast basis, and your ticket to the show. All this for just €219 per person sharing. Call 074 91 25,000 to book. A non-refundable deposit of €100 per person will hold your place. Single supplement applies. To see Disney's The Lion King in Dublin.
After last week's brilliant win at Treaty United, Finn Harps are back in action with 2 fixtures over the bank holiday weekend. The Ballabafay Blues host Kerry on Friday night at Finn Park and then face Galway United away on bank holiday Monday. Tune into Highland for coverage for both games. Finn Harps on Highland Radio in association with BNS Credit Union Ballabafay, where they have fantastic student loan rates now on offer. Don't miss out on the great reduced rate. Visit bnscu.ie or call freephone 1800 290 390. BNS Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like Super Value Fresh Irish Tomahawk and Ribeye Steak save 33%. Heineken 12-pack bottles only €15. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
New multi-million euro cattle tagging scheme launched. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
We reveal how farmers will be incentivised to DNA tag animals. Find out how many farmers applied for the new subcler scheme in your county. Fears grow that re-wetting plans will devalue farmland. Department moves and hedgerow removal rules. As summer silage sizzles, we examine rising diesel prices. And Ireland leads the way in sustainable farming. Read our exclusive interview with the EU Commissioner for Agriculture.
All in this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time is 16 minutes past 11. It's That's Entertainment in the company of Micheal and Fionnuala Rabbit. And great to see Fionnuala's got 2 hands free now. Fionnuala, we can hear you a little bit better as well. So The Little Mermaid, is this live action? Is this graphics? What is it?
Well, The Little Mermaid is live action. So Disney have been doing this over the last couple of years, kind of changing things over to live action. And to mixed results would be my opinion on it. For some of the other stuff that they've done, they're talking about doing a Cinderella one now, and they've done Cinderella kind of lots of different sort of form. They did Beauty and the Beast, which was the exact same thing, which is my all-time favourite. It's in my top 5 movies of all time, and wasn't crazy about the live action one. But we were very fortunate to be invited to the Eclipse Cinema. We're celebrating, as mentioned last week, their first anniversary of their... which I obviously now a great ad for Eclipse. I can't remember the name of it.
The Royal Room.
The actual room that it's in. But it's absolutely beautiful. They've done out in really kind of an old style. I would say sort of a 50s, 60s kind of a style. Would you mind? Because that's kind of a look that sort of goes in with all the movie posters and all that kind of thing.
Yes, the Royal Room.
It's just really beautiful.
Yeah, and they had the Doctor No poster, you know, the old Casablanca posters. There's a great love of cinema and a great love of the heritage cinema in the room. And chatting to the people who run the place, it's obvious from chatting to them as well. They really do love cinema, not just new cinema, but classic cinema as well. It was a great night. I mean, there was pizza.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm happy. You know, feed me and I'm very happy.
I know it's a new thing that they're doing. They're trying to make cinema an experience so that you can actually go and you can have like food brought to your table. You can order your food, go in, and like halfway through the movie, they'll drop in your pizza to you. You can also have a glass of wine or along with your meal if that's what you'd like. So it's all very beautifully done. Now, we went and we didn't know what the movie was going to be. And all of a sudden we sat down and what was it? But very exciting for me, The Little Mermaid. A whole new experience for Micheal Letty because he had never seen, if you believe it, I'm going to ring childline, he had never seen a Disney movie. I am stunned, shocked, and partially appalled. So this is the start of it now for him. He's well into them. He's going to be watching them all now. Now, for myself, I absolutely thought it was lovely. It was just beautiful. It was actually really well done. The colours and everything were fabulous. Javier Bardem played Titan, and he just had a real presence about him, even though technically he was supposed to be floating in water the whole time that we saw him. You had the classic parts of it, which was like, you know, the crab and the flounder, the fish. You had mermaid. Eric, the prince, was out and about. They even added a song and gave him a little song and everything for it. The young girl that they discovered, as far as I'm aware, she wasn't really in anything before she came to this movie, and that plays Ariel is just amazing in it. Her facial expressions and everything, if anybody knows the story of Ariel, it's the mermaid that wants to become a human being, and in doing so, she encounters Ursula, the sea witch, and she has to make a bargain with her. And part of that bargain is that she loses her voice. So there's an awful lot of facial expressions and everything that you need for it. And I thought she was really fantastic in it now. I was talking the whole way through you're watching it, and I was like, this is young girls, kind of like 8 to 14 are just going to love this movie.
Yeah, like everything, your internet's not fantastic there, Fionnuala, but Micheal, like everything though, this has entered the culture wars. And IDMB have to change how the review system, blogs being written about that it's washing over history. This is a show that's had a production that's had issues in the past with the race of people that have played the lead role and all that. I mean, do we even want to get into that? But as I say, you know, it's like everything now. Everything, particularly it seems kids' movies, gets dragged into what seems to be culture wars.
Absolutely. There's a disproportionate reaction. You know, there's a small, vocal, angry minority that has very strong views about these things. And as you said, it's often things that they maybe saw as kids and they feel an ownership over the material, and then they react with incredibly negative comments online when like a lead character may be cast in a different race. And this did definitely dog the early days of production of this. When Halle Bailey was announced, there was just a ridiculous response online, and you're right, it does kind of taint the production to some degree, but it's worth remembering, like, it's just the problem with social media and this problem with the internet. It's not who's right, it's who's loudest and who will repeat their views the most, you know.
Yeah, but Fionnuala, I mean, there are people who say that this is set in a period of history in this film where slavery was an issue, and that it's not referenced at all. In other words, history has been washed of that, and that this is an opportunity to educate younger people about the realities of life. Again, I don't want to get dragged into this because he's had a lovely evening, but I don't want to ignore what's happening around us as well too. Can you see how it's been dragged into the culture wars or the woke wars and all that stuff?
I have seen how it's been dragged into it was dragged in first about race, that, Ariel had to be a particular race and had to look a particular way. And to be honest, they kind of threw the kitchen sink at it, because it turns out that it has every race under the sun in it now. And they're all related to each other in lots of different ways. And it's all, there's no kind of discussion about anybody being from anywhere else. But I do find it unusual when people say that it's set in a period. I mean, it's not really set in any period. It says boats going back and forth and across. I mean, I suppose you can assume that it's pre-air travel and it's but there's no reference in it that it's set at a particular point in time, or there's no association that that's the thing in it. People are, they don't have cars and that kind of thing. But beyond that, there's no specific.
I think that there comes a point on certain issues, and not all, where adults arguing and mudslinging over issues that affect children need to wonder what example they're setting and what damage they are doing to children in the name of protecting children. Now, as I say, there are different issues and different scales, and I get that, right? But at what point is it doing children a disservice, fully grown adults constantly squabbling over some very important things, but a lot of trivial stuff? Where are actually the kids in this debate?
Yeah, I agree. Like, if they were doing something, if Disney were, Disney's had a lot of historical issues when it comes to race and things like that. So I understand people have a concept about it, and then, whether or not they're in the middle of a big row there with Ron DeSantis down in Florida and all that kind of stuff. So you don't know whether they've gone to the other extreme now, back and forth. But in the past, if you really wanted to take the whole historical thing for Disney, you probably wouldn't let your kids watch Kids Disney, because they did some very dodgy stuff in the 50s and 60s with regard to race, and it done in cartoon form. But these ones that they're doing now, I think, kind of steer away. I mean, that's like saying, like, Beauty and the Beast. Well, oh my God, that's very offensive to beasts that we are bringing things into it. Yeah, I think you have to take some of the wonder out of it. They're not making a documentary.
No, but you see, the thing, I can imagine... but in America somewhere, probably primarily in America, because it's so divided, you've got young kids that say to their moms or dads or guardians or whatever, can we go and see The Little Mermaid this weekend? And they're probably sat down and told in details from an ideological, political point of view as to why they can't, to protect them. So rather than let them go and just see a film and come out like we did the Care Bear movies or whatever, they're being, they're having all of this stuff layered on them in the guise of protecting them. And everything's about protecting their innocence. It's just, adults need to grow up. Yeah.
I definitely think so. And I think kids can see it, because kids don't even notice what, you know what I mean? None of the kids are going on saying, oh God, in the cartoon, Ariel is white and has bright orange hair. I mean, technically in the cartoon, are we saying Ariel is Irish? Like, her hair is completely orange. Like, if it is, she's actually being offensive to Irish people. You're like, this is the whole thing of it. Like, I don't think the kids are seeing that. They're seeing, like, as I said, was down here and my niece went to a birthday party with all of her friends, and she loved it at one point, when there was one little point in it, and one of the girls in her group got so excited that they stood up and applauded. Lovely. They were so into it that it was, oh my God, it was finally, the part was finally happening and all this. I think you can start it's not like as if they're trying to make anything that was set in a specific historical time. It's not that it was like, if Disney were going to do a movie that was set during the Civil War in America, or set in that time period, then you want to try and be as historical and give at least some insight into, I mean, in no way could you be given the terribleness of racism into these things. It's for small kids as well. You have to kind of break them in.
How do you, in any constructive way, bring slavery into that story? So now, whilst we started this conversation, because it was an experience that you went through, and we'll park the controversial side of it for a second, I was trying to sort out some technical stuff. And did you explain what you actually did the night itself? Because as I say, I was...
Oh, yeah, no, it was a brilliant... No, we were talking about it there. It was fantastic. Okay. And I definitely recommend that people go down to the eclipse and see it. And, we get very kind of lazy ourselves. And now the Century Cinema is such a wonderful cinema as well, that's right beside us in Letterkenny.
But for other people that have never been to the
us is doing it. That us is doing a bit of heavy lifting, Fionnuala. I can't believe you've actually become a real, true Letterkenny person.
Oh my God!
Hold on a second. Can stop the press. We all don't live in Letterkenny. Some of us live closer to the beautiful Eclipse Cinema in Bundoran.
Well, there you go.
But I've been to both. But I've been to both.
To be honest, I didn't even know that they were connected. I didn't know those two were connected until we were at the.
The name is a clue.
Townies. I joke.
You give out to me when I'm not being Donegal, when I say me instead of me, and now all of a sudden
no,
me instead of us. I can't win.
But listen, hey, come here, we're looking now. The more of these facilities you have.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh my God,
absolutely.
And I think you really need to be supporting them. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Is when you have the opportunity, and if you can't afford it at all, you really should be going. And the other thing I'm saying about the Eclipse is, for me, I normally wouldn't think to be going there because you have such a fine cinema, but it actually is, and you think to yourself, oh, it's a bit away. But actually, it's no length at all.
20 minutes,
just to jump into the car, and it's well worth it for the experience of just seeing the way the cinema that they've done there. They've built an amazing building, but this new particular cinema that they have is a real experience. I'm going to definitely go back. They do pancakes, bacon, and
it's a full menu. Like there's a proper
I totally want to be watching Transformers while looking.
Yes.
A caller says the final season of Jack Ryan is coming on the 30th of June. It's on Prime Video. The trailer looks good on YouTube. We'll be sad when it's finished. One of the best shows in recent times.
Yes.
Now, I'm about 3 episodes into season 2. There's 3 at the moment. The 4th is the last. Is that right?
4th is the last. Yeah, they announced that
you're
before
a big
3.
fan, aren't you?
Huge fan.
Although you were kind of like first brilliant, second good-ish, was the third better or whatever. You
do listen.
Yeah, I know, but it's only on certain.
You do listen. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, first was absolutely brilliant. Second was very good, and I thought the third was lacking. But I'm delighted to see that the 4th is only 6 episodes, because I think that was part of the problem for season 3 was the pacing. So I think it's probably going to go out in a high. I hope it goes out in a high. I wish it was continuing. I wish that they had kept going as with the way they did with Bosch. Amazon had some great shows, like Goliath is another one. I wish they had kept going past season 4. But some of these are 4 and done. And John Krasinski possibly going to be busy doing Marvel films in the years to come, hopefully, fingers crossed. So maybe that's why he can't do any more Jack Ryan.
All right, Kevin's on. I'm only halfway through Poker Face, but if Columbo ever had a daughter, aptly named Charlie Kell, maybe a contender. Has anyone seen Succession finale yet? The father was right about them, but no spoilers here, except that I read some of the one-liners were borrowed from his previous show, Pop Show. I see that it was also the finale of Barry, which I haven't seen yet, but must be worth a watch. If Henry Winkler won his second Emmy 40 years after his first win from playing the Fonz. Fonz.
Cool.
I only watched the first series of that. I found it a bit, I don't know, it just wasn't my cup of tea. But it has gotten some fantastic things. The lead actor in it is like from SNL and that kind of thing. You would have seen him on the Saturday Night Live and different things like that. He's very droll, very straight-faced, and very, very kind of droll humour that's kind of throughout it, and it's quite dark.
Hey, Michael, you'll never guess what I saw in RTE during the week.
Yellowstone?
Fionnuala Rabbit.
Oh, I was close.
She's down now. Were you not on RTE? You were on RTE, the news, weren't you?
Was I?
I saw a clip on Twitter of something anyway. Were you not down in Dublin?
I was in Dublin. I didn't think I was on RT though. News. But yes, no, we were down in Dublin with the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, we were in the Dáil, which is always a good visit. I have to say again, you know anybody, get yourself up there to have a look. But we went up to have a chat with their local representatives.
Do they have pizza? Do you get free pizza?
Do they have pancakes?
That's why I'm feeling very Donegal person now. That's why I'm feeling very like a Donegal. I totally embraced it.
All right.
And next week is the lunch. Just to give myself a plug. Anybody want to come to the President's Lunch in the Chambers on in the Radisson next Friday? Come and meet Mary Lou, possibly the next leader of this country, according to the polls at the moment, anyways.
Yeah, could be interesting.
What happens in a year and a half.
That's on the 9th, and there's still a few tickets available to come and enjoy the
Your good self is going to be there as well.
Yes,
very good.
Indeed. I'll tell you, between that and award ceremonies, my calendar is full. If I had a 2 day, if I had a 2-day calendar. Yeah, the awards last Sunday night. I just thought, and I've said it off air. I've said it on air. I was flabbergasted. The team did an amazing show. There was a huge turnout. brilliant businesses. I loved the representation from all over the place. I loved how it was all different types of people. I loved the glamour and the style and the buzz, and Marty Field was brilliant. And as I say, I wasn't involved in it, so I'm not blowing my own trumpet. I had no involvement whatsoever. I went there as a guest in inverted commas, if you know what I mean. And I have to say, it was awesome, wasn't it, Fionnuala?
Oh yeah, no, the team at the station did an amazing job, and as with everything that our team does, they always give it 110%. But it was just fantastic. But it was just amazing to see so many small to medium businesses, because really that's what they were. You know, a lot of them were like family. I mean, the Shamrock Bar that won Pub of the Year, and it was fantastic. I actually happened to be getting my photograph taken with them when they went into the other room with their award. And like the 4 generations of their family now have been in that pub, and they had 3 of those generations were there for the collection of the award.
It was lovely because I was announcing that one, and I remember it, and it felt like something special. And family butchers, alterations and repairs. Obviously then the chemists and all that. It was just there was just a lovely feel to it, and I actually genuinely am already looking forward to next year. We'll try and sneak you in. I'll tuck you in underneath my 3-piece, Michael. We'll get you in. All right, okay.
I couldn't bring him. I was going to bring him, and then Sean wouldn't give me any tickets. So, no, it was sold out.
He was pretty tight on those now, which I wasn't. I wasn't happy about. I thought he was a wee bit tight. Anyway, such was the demand.
It was such a popular. It was. You had to.
And credit to the Mount Ericle as well, because the room was laid out beautiful. You went in and you thought, wow, something big's about to happen here. Okay, right. We're going to take a quick break. Stay where you are. Say that again, Fionnuala.
That it was easier to get Niallhorn tickets than it was to get tickets to...
Yeah, well, he's announced the 3rd date, so it'll probably be a little bit easier, but I understand it's just an analogy. I'm right across all popular culture. All right, we'll be back with more from Micheal and Fionnuala after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The world is getting a little more. But maybe more could mean something else. More means more proactive green energy solutions. More means more wind turbines and more recycling. More means more biodiversity and more energy storage. More means more hydrogen and more solar farms, because more clean energy means more efficient living, means more thriving communities, means more energy autonomy. That's why we're More Than Mona. Learn more at morethanmona.ie. Board Mona.
Crawford Tiles and More, Castlefin. Summer offers now on. 10% off everything for the month of June. Wall and floor tiles, all sizes from small to extra large. Brand new selection of wood flooring in stock. Over 60 bathrooms on display. Tile and bathware clearance available outside. Late night opening on Thursday till 8. Closed Saturdays. Crawford Tiles and More, Castlefin.
Kick off June with these brilliant bank holiday offers at Lidl. From June 2nd to June 5th, spend €50 or more and save 10% with Lidl Plus. And fill the grill with Fordbia-approved barbecue meats, 3 for just €9. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full summer at Lidl. T's and C's apply.
232. 3 simple numbers. But for Audi, they signify more. More innovation and excitement. An invitation to experience progress you can feel. And a shift in mindset to greater expectations. Like the competition edition on the Audi A4 and A5 S-Line models. All part of our 232 range. Discover how progress makes you feel in a 232 Audi. And book a test drive today.
Be there and show your colours in Croke Park this Saturday, June 3rd for the GAA Ring, Rackard and Mar Hurling Finals. It's Derry versus Meath in the Christie Ring Cup Final at 5. Donegal take on Wicklow in the Nicky Rackard Cup Final at 3, and it's Monaghan versus Lancashire in the Lordy Mar Cup Final at 1. These are our counties, these are our colours. Advanced ticket sales only. Get yours at gaa.ie or selected Centra and Super Value stores. GAA, where we all belong.
Now, the 44th Celtic Media Festival, the international summit of sound and screen, takes place in beautiful Dunlow from the 6th to the 8th of June at, again, another beautiful venue, the Waterfront Hotel. The director of the Celtic Media Festival is Katrina Logan. Good morning, Katrina. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you with us. Okay, so talk to us about the busy programme that's coming up over the 3 days.
Yeah, so we're so excited to be in Donegal. The festival itself moves location every year. And so this is the first time we've been back on the island of Ireland since 2016. So being a native myself, I'm absolutely delighted to be bringing the festival home. We have 3 days of media industry events, about 300 to 400 media industry professionals from the UK, Ireland, wider Europe, America, coming across to have conference sessions, awards, parties, and hopefully we'll be able to showcase Donegal as a great space for media and hopefully location filming and things like that as well. So we're really excited to come over.
Yeah, and that ties on with a push on at the moment, isn't there, to sort of, get people back involved in the industry, back to Donegal, that we've become a more even more attractive place to generate content.
Absolutely. It's becoming more and more accessible, and it's great to see the flights from Glasgow to Donegal coming back this summer, because there's a huge amount of crossover in terms of filming as well between Scotland and Ireland. And we really want to see that pushed a little more. I don't think people realise how easy it is to get to Donegal from places like Dublin, and we're actually flying people up from Dublin, and they can't believe they can't believe the speed and the shortness of the flight and stuff. So we're really excited to bring that up and to see a lot of more content makers coming up to Donegal. I know of a few companies that have opened recently up there, and people coming home from London and Glasgow and setting up their companies there. And it's really great to see that filming happening up there and expanding,
Yeah, and what would you say the focus of this event is? An awful lot of it seems to be on in terms of content creation, be it individuals or companies. How you can, I suppose, with the best will in the world, if you want to create something and be incredibly popular, it probably has to go beyond the boundaries of Ireland to some extent too, to a global audience.
Sure. So kind of a couple of things we concentrate on. Every year, Indigenous Celtic languages are something that we really focused on. The festival was started 45 years ago, because there was a lack of Indigenous language broadcasters in the UK and in Ireland. And, we can see the success of these broadcasters now, the success of Colleen Kewen getting nominated for Oscars and pushing that forward. Content creation is huge, and the story will always transcend the language, as we saw with Colleen Kewen, an incredible film. Beyond that, what's really important for Irish makers, and as well kind of across the nations and regions, Celtic nations and regions, is international co-production. Gone are the days where a broadcaster will step in, or even a distributor will step in and say, we will pay you this much for your whole film or your whole TV show. It's about generating that money from other places, and international co-productions are something that is becoming more and more popular, and hopefully will continue. And it means that you're getting creatives from different spaces working together, and it's been shown to be hugely successful.
And also in terms of the output, you can see it really in production values often in that regard. And finally, in terms of public attendance, what's the situation there? Is this industry only? Do you have to register? Do you have to pay? What's the story there? Finally, Katrina.
Sure. So it is an industry. Primarily an industry-only festival, but we have one session that we'd like to invite the public to, free of charge. If they email us, we'll make sure that we get them a seat if we can. Obviously, seats permitting. If they email info@celticmediafestival.co.uk. That session is Miriam O'Callaghan will be interviewing the makers, the producer and director of Colleen Kewen, about the Oscar success, how they made the film. Obviously, it's the most successful Irish language film of all time. It's been described as the perfect film by Rolling Stone magazine, and the makers will be with us, and Miriam O'Callaghan will be interviewing them. So if people would like to attend that free of charge, they just need to email us at info@celticmediafestival.co.uk, and capacity permitting will hopefully get them a pass for that.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. I appreciate that. That's Katrina Logan, Director of the Celtic Media Festival. I have to put a filter on, do you know that sometimes? We host a lot of things here in Donegal in the Northwest, and they're fantastic. But sometimes things have to be hosted in Dublin or elsewhere for us to get invites to things, if you know what I mean. I don't know. I'm not getting into that, but I just, as the biggest media organisation here in the Northwest. But anyway, be that as may, I wish them all the success in the world. Katrina Logan there. Okay, Narvik.
Yes.
That's your wake up.
Yes. Before I mention Narvik, can I just go back to that text message? And I have to say that brand new show, Poker Face, that's on Sky, I so endorse that text.
Oh, come on, it's on your list. Go straight to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
No, the reason I put that is just it's brand new, and I really want to point people towards it. I love this show. I agree with that text. It's just
what is it then? Review it.
Yeah, I will review it. So basically, Natasha, I come up to a challenge. Natasha Lyonne, right, who has done shows like Orange Is the New Black and Russian Doll, and Ryan Johnson. He's the guy who makes those Daniel Craig movies, the Glass Onion. What was you had another name for that? Something
Onion Island
or something like that. Yeah, and Knives Out. So they've gotten together. She's a co-creator on this, and she's the star of this. And it's basically very much a deliberate attempt to do a show like Columbo, do a show like Rockford Files.
So and Kevin was on the button.
Oh, on the button, 100%. And they've said that, and there's a great interview out there with Natasha Lyonne, just casually name dropping all these 70s detective shows. The Fugitive is another big influence on it. So it's a really smart, and again, if you've seen Knives Out, if you've seen the Daniel Craig movies, you know it's going to be smart. It's a very smart weekly whodunit, very much in the style of the classic detective shows that really aren't being done anymore, which is why they decided to do them. Natasha Lyonne, we find out, I'm going to leave out some of the details, but all you need to know really is that she was a very successful poker player. And she has been banned from every casino in America because she can always spot a lie. She can always tell. It's almost like
it's almost like a premise.
Oh, great premise. And that's the only thing you have to accept.
And is it played straight, is it?
So basically it's as straight as Rockford Files or Columbo was. Right. I mean, they're humorous. She will be moving from town to town in the series, driving around. And as she arrives in each town, there's a murder, very much a la Murder, She Wrote or all those shows. And all it needs, and you just have to accept the premise, she's maybe in the local newsagent, and somebody's talking about something, and they're like, oh, John, somebody who's just won the lottery, and everyone's celebrating them, and they say something like, yeah, John next door, he always did the lottery, but he never had any luck.
Yeah.
And then she'll do that thing in the camera movie, and she knows they're lying.
So her superpower is her intuition. Okay.
And then she just becomes this annoying person who is digging and digging and digging. It's none of her business, but she knows something's not right, and she'll just keep turning things over until she gets them. And what's beautiful about this show is, and this is why it deserves all the praise it gets and all the comparisons it gets to Columbo, it's every bit as clever. I mean, I've seen most of the first season. It's every bit as clever as Columbo is. There are some really lovely clues and some really lovely gotchas. And that was the big thing about Columbo. I'm a huge Columbo fan. 4 episodes from the end of a complete rewatch of Columbo at the moment. And that's the thing Peter Falk always talked about. The difficulty they had getting great clues at the start. The one clue that would tell Columbo what had happened. And the gotcha at the end, where he's face to face with this evil radio host called Greg, and he said, but Greg, we know that wasn't a live broadcast because, and then he'll have the bit of evidence or whatever, and it's always really clever, and they do it. This show does that.
Do you know the funny thing is though, it's catching someone in a lie effectively, and
yes.
One of my favourite shows, just for dipping in and out of, is the first 48. I've described it before. It's from the 99 call to the conclusion, and it's all no talking heads, is all on it. But it's a lot of that in real detective work, because you what they do in the interviewing process is they get someone on a story that their story is right, and they don't challenge them at that point, but then they challenge that story with the facts, and it gets to a point, and you often see it, where they have to admit, because so it is really art imitating life.
Yes.
Have you seen Poker Face at all, Fionnuala?
I actually downloaded to watch it, to review it, because Micheal has talked about it before to me so highly, and then I kind of got distracted by another show that just started on Sky. So they have a couple of new shows coming out. So I kind of got distracted by the White House Plumbers,
Right, well, we'll talk about that after the break then. So, what are you giving Poker Face out of 10 at this point?
Solid 9 out of 10. It's great.
And how many episodes are available?
There are available. I think over here you have 3 episodes in. I think the third one is probably tonight. It might be, yeah.
Okay.
So 3 of 10 at the moment is all available. I don't know, are they all streaming? I know they're broadcasting them on a week.
I get you.
Yeah,
right, episodically, weekly. Okay, back in a sec. We'll have a look forward to the weather for the next 7 to 10 days after these two.
Get your career moving with an apprenticeship.
With 65 options from certificate to PhD level, the pace of change is accelerating.
Generation Apprenticeship is creating fantastic career opportunities for apprentices and a vital talent pipeline for businesses throughout Ireland.
Opportunities are open all year round. Don't miss out. Visit apprenticeship.ie today.
An initiative of the Government of Ireland.
New multi-million euro cattle tagging scheme launched. For more in your Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
We reveal how farmers will be incentivised to DNA tag animals. Find out how many farmers applied for the new suckler scheme in your county. Fears grow that re-wetting plans will devalue farmland. Department moves and hedgerow removal rules. As summer silage sizzles, we examine rising diesel prices. And Ireland leads the way in sustainable farming. Read our exclusive interview with the EU Commissioner for Agriculture.
All in this week's Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
Time is ticking on the sizzling summer sale at Easy Living Furniture. With absolutely everything reduced, now is the time to spruce up your space with stylish furniture and unbeatable savings. From cosy sofas to elegant dining sets, we have the perfect pieces to transform your home. But hurry, this sizzling sale ends this Sunday. Don't miss out on the hottest prices of the season. Visit Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
This is not just chicken. This is buttermilk chicken in a crispy coating. This is katsu curry chicken, marinated in aromatic spices and rolled in golden breadcrumbs. This is chicken in a fiery, flaming hot and spicy crumb. And they're 3 for €12. These are not just chicken tenders. These are M&S chicken tenders. Subject to availability. T's and C's apply.
If you know the beauty and skincare product that suits you best, you'll find them at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From moisturisers, cleansers and toners to day creams and night creams, McGee's have the top brands you know and love, like Lancôme, Clarins and La Roche-Posay. Also Elizabeth Arden, Vichy, Nukes and many more. All at McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less.
Alan O'Reilly from Carlow Weather. Good morning to you, Alan.
Good morning, Greg. How are you doing?
Fantastic, Alan. So, what's the story then? What's the crystal ball? It's slightly more technically advanced than a crystal ball, but you know what I'm saying. What have we got for the weekend and into next week?
Well, the weather is stuck. The high pressure is stuck out to the northwest of us, so it's keeping all that wind and rain and everything else away from us. The worst of it is going to be a bit of cloud. That's as bad as things are going to get, is some clouds. But there will be lots of sunshine, lots of sunny spells, dry, lovely weekend, same into next week. The only difference really is that northeasterly breeze. I mean, yesterday I was looking, Malin Head was about 14 degrees, and just if you came inland, even, towards Derry, it was 19 degrees, and further inland in Donegal, it was 21 degrees. So if you're heading to the coast, it will certainly be cooler, especially on the north coast. So maybe head west instead of north if you're in Donegal and you're looking for a beach.
And is there any break in the weather on the horizon?
Not really. No, not for the next week. Beyond that, there's low pressure out to the southwest that's bringing all the thunderstorms and rain to everybody heading on their sunny holidays in Spain and Italy and France. And that's going to try and disrupt us. But it doesn't look like that high pressure is going to give in too easily. So no real rain in the next 10 days. You might get the odd tiny little shower possibly in the next, maybe in the 7 to 10 day range. But at the moment, it looks like high pressure is really going to dominate. So no sign of any rain in the reliable time frame.
And just very finally, obviously the wind, if the wind is changing direction, is that likely to see it warm up on the east coast and us to see slightly more cloudier conditions over the next week? Or what are the models telling you?
Yeah, very little change in the wind direction for the next 7 days, really. It could change after that, but that's a little bit uncertain. But we're kind of stuck in an east or northeasterly wind. So That doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon, which isn't keeping Dublin people too happy, but sure, they get enough of everything else down there.
Yeah, Alan, Mia, you won't lose any sleep over that. Come here, you enjoy banging those ice cream cones into yourself and have a lovely weekend. Thanks for your time, Alan. Take care of yourself.
Cheers, Greg. Enjoy.
All right, bye-bye. Alan O'Reilly, Carlo weather there. I don't know. It's kind of strange that we're getting this long spell of good weather. Right, okay. The show that you were going to talk about, sorry, Fionnuala, save me opening the phone again.
Yeah, no, the show is called The White House Plumbers. So I went in, sat down, and was all ready to watch Poker Face, and suddenly this popped up. Poker Face, just so you know, is also available. You can download the whole lot on Sky. And the same thing with this White House Plumbers. It's on week by week, but you can also download the whole lot in it. So there's 5 episodes of it. The stars of it are Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux, 2 actors, which I like, but you don't really see them in stuff. Although Woody Harrelson tends to pick oddly quirky stuff now. So I was like, and I actually had seen them being interviewed on an American talk show. So I was very curious about it. The White House Plumbers is obviously not about plumbers. What it is in 1971, everybody might know about the Watergate, and there was 2, one CIA agent, Hunt was his name, and the second guy then was Gordon G. Liddy. He's an FBI guy, and the 2 of them ended up getting together in order to plug the leaks that Nixon's government assumed was happening. And that's why they call themselves the plumbers, because they plugged the leaks. And in doing so, they actually managed to bring down Nixon. And it's when you watch this show, it's first of all, it's beautifully set in shot. It's very kind of 70s, real kind of a gritty look about it. Everybody's got the long hair and they're chewing, and it's all misogyny and smacking the secretary on the backside and all that as she walks past and all that kind of stuff. So it's very
Michael's going to love it.
Yeah, it's very much set in the time. But and I love the very start of it, because the very first thing it says is that this is a true story. No names have been changed to protect people because everybody's in jail.
I love it.
And it goes from there. But I have to say, if either of those gentlemen are alive today, they would not be happy with their portrayal, because they do not come across as the smartest bunch of people. Some of the stuff that they do is just like insane, but also it's in a historical context, so it's interesting. So you've got one side of it, which is if you're watching this, it's just some crazy ass drama where they're just like literally like they want to break into a place. So in order to kind of keep it quiet, and when the first episodes, they end up, they can't find what they're looking for, so they accidentally ransack the place. So then they pretend that it was drug dealers that did it by throwing drugs all around the room. And it's like, what drug dealer breaks into an office and then leaves the drugs behind by spraying the whole room with them? So it's all that crazy kind of stuff. But then on the back of it, then you also have the historical context that it's set in. And the fact that, like, I never realized that they made 5 or 6 attempts at break-ins, as part of the Watergate thing before they finally really knocked it out of the park. There's a lot of other periphery characters whose names people will be familiar with if they have an interest in that particular time and era. And
sounds brilliant. So what would you give it out of 10, Fionnuala?
Well, I'm 2 into it now so far, and I have to say I am really enjoying it.
I look forward to that too, I think.
Yeah, it is good now. Harrison is, as usual, doesn't move his lips when he talks. Theroux is, this wonderfully enthusiastic, really wants to get ahead in life, doesn't realize that he may actually be a Nazi because his nanny was a German who played him Hitler's speeches in order for him to have more confidence when he set out the door of the house.
Right, brilliant stuff. Okay, that sounds good. Trading Places, Channel 4 in a couple of minutes, Michael.
This was on a few weeks ago. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned G. Gordon Liddy, because G. Gordon Liddy of the Watergate scandal became an actor, and he was in lots of movies and TV shows. He was on a show called 18 Wheels of Justice, a syndicated action show of the 1990s. I love Greg's face as I say that. It was about a trucker,
of course,
who fought crime. But G. Gordon Liddy was asked and offered a role in Trading Places, the Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd film. He turned it down, so they ended up casting someone else. But Liddy had a book out about Watergate, so they gave the character that book to read on the train, and you're like, Why is he reading Joy G. Gordon Liddy's book? Yeah, this was on Channel 4 a couple of weeks ago. I threw it out.
Down to 20 seconds now.
It's a classic film that, in my opinion, holds up perfectly and is every bit as funny. I hadn't seen it in over 30 years.
Seen it. It's okay, brilliant.
Oh, it's so good.
Worth a watch. Okay, and Beverly Hills Cop's down there too, so we're in a bit of a Eddie
Murphy, yeah, because number 4 is coming.
Okay, come here. We'll maybe talk about that as a preview to it. Fionnuala Rabbit, thank you very much indeed. Have a lovely weekend. Best wishes to all the family down there. Michael, Eddie, thank you as always. We really do appreciate you coming up and being part of our team here. It's great. Okay, thanks very much, Michael. That's where we have to leave it on the programme today and for the week. Have a lovely, wonderful weekend, please. Go out and enjoy the weather if you can, but please, if you're out in the water, be extra safe around the boats and paddling and all that kind of stuff, because we're all going to rush to the beach, as I say, if we're lucky enough to have access to it, and it's just that one slight lapse in concentration can lead to disaster. So be extra careful, and please don't block the piers for the emergency services if you can, or access to them. Have a lovely weekend. We'll chat next week. Thanks to Caroline O, who researched and produced, and Neve, of course, working flat out in the show. John Bresson is next.